Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Wrong Interrogation Room, the first cracked case shocked the world. Chapter 81. The fierceness of the robber Lu Hailong was beyond Ning Cheng's expectations. It also greatly exceeded the thinking of all the police officers inside and outside the bank scene. There were more than a dozen robbers in the bank, and more than 30 ordinary people were taken as hostages. If you want to rescue the hostages, this is undoubtedly a very difficult rescue mission, which will bring Li Gang, the person in charge of the operation, a great test. The risk will be considerable. However, if there is a mistake, it may lead to casualties. When the robbers are offended, those guys who don't take human life seriously will kill the hostages. And if they choose to attack, the robbers will not be polite. They have real guns in their hands, which may lead to casualties within the police. Especially Lu Hailong, the leader of this group of criminals. He's still a rather cunning guy who has been on the run for 7 years without being caught by the police and is still at large. Captain Li, what should we do now and what we need to do, just say it directly. Ning Cheng finished reading Lu Hailong's data file and handed it back. For the time being, we don't need you to go out, we have to explore the situation inside the bank. Li Gang glanced at the door of the bank with the iron gate tightly closed, and said solemnly, "If you are sent in rashly, it will be irresponsible to you, and it is also irresponsible to the hostages inside the bank." What to do then? Zhou Ziyan was curious about Captain Li Gang's next plan. "We have obtained the bank's defense map and floor plan. I will send a few police officers to try to break through from the rear to see if there is a chance to rescue the hostages, and by the way, investigate the details of the group of robbers. What if inside the bank, the robbers guarded the bank all around?" Ning Cheng frowned, feeling vaguely uneasy. According to the data file, Lu Hailong, the leader of the criminal gang, is a very cunning criminal. Wouldn't careful consideration be made before the robbery? In the face of the police's deployment, will he really sit still? Ning Cheng doesn't think so at all. That Bang's dragon might do something. Ning Cheng persuaded, "Captain Li, the file shows that Lu Hailong is not someone with no plans. What if she defended the bank? Even if there is defense, we have to find out the situation, and we shouldn't be ignorant of what's going on inside." Li Gang said, "This is the bank's deployment map and floor plan, you can take a look. There are 2 back doors in the bank, one is the back door on the first floor, and the other is the back door on the second floor. This back door is extremely secret, and only a few people know the safe escape exit. Quote, in a short period of time, the group of robbers may have difficulty predicting this door. We can hijack the penetration to enter, observe the situation, and rescue the hostages by the way." After finishing speaking, Li Gang walked to the 5 armed police members of the organization and explained their related tasks. It didn't take long for the 5 armed police members to disappear immediately. It should be according to Li Gang's plan to penetrate the bank. Will there be any problems? This scheme is very risky. Ning Cheng frowned and said to Zhou Ziyan. Zhou Ziyan said, "The plan is very high, but it is an effective method. We currently have no idea about the group of robbers. Even if this operation cannot rescue the hostages, we can still detect their situation. Investigate the situation." Ning Cheng shook his head and said, "You have also seen the information on Lu Hailong, it is far from being as simple as you imagined. If you go in rashly, you may get nothing, and you may anger the group of murderers, causing casualties to the hostages, and the consequences are unimaginable." Thinking of the situation described by Ning Cheng, Zhou Ziyan frowned slightly, took a deep breath and said, "Captain Li has rich experience and knows what to do. Before making a decision, he must have considered the risks and consequences." "Are you sure? How dare you judge?" Ning Cheng forced. "Why do you know him so well? I think this plan is very risky, and you should change your strategy." "What do you mean? You are questioning Captain Li." The matter was urgent, and Zhou Ziyan lost her usual calmness, and said faintly, "Why do I know Captain Li Gang? It's because I was a soldier in the army. Captain Li used to be my instructor. He has made a lot of military exploits and dealt with a lot of situations like this." Ning Cheng didn't know Zhou Ziyan's past and was stunned for a while. Zhou Ziyan continued to say, "I don't deny that your ability to solve cases is very high, even higher than mine, but you specialize in surgery, and Team Li has rich experience in this area, so he should be in charge." Watching Ning Cheng go silent, Zhou Ziyan realized that she was a little anxious, and said softly. Ning Cheng, I know you're in a hurry, worried about the hostages in the bank, but you can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. The current situation is no worse than the battlefield, and we should obey orders. Okay. Ning Cheng sighed and didn't explain any further. He looked at the 5 members of the armed police who disappeared, feeling faintly uneasy in his heart. Actually, you don't have to worry about them. Diaresis. Zhou Ziyan's tone was soft, and she said with self-confidence, the 5 police officers just now were all good soldiers in the army. It's definitely no problem to investigate the situation of the bank. I hope so. Ning Cheng also hoped that his worries did not come true, quietly watching the evolution of things. The beauty reporter Yi Wanzhou stood beside Ning Cheng and said uneasy, Ning Cheng, why do I have a bad premonition? Why do you have a bad premonition? Ning Cheng comforted. Don't you think it's too quiet? As soon as Yi Wanzhou said this sentence, in an instant, there was a continuous and intensive sound of gunshots in the sky. Deafening. A powerful and dull gunshot broke the silence. The spectators outside the cordon were startled one after another, and many people immediately fled backwards and never looked again. They have realized the seriousness of this robbery. It may be dead now. After the gunshots, almost at the same time, Li Gang and Zhou Ziyan, the captains in charge of the rescue operation, immediately changed their colors. It was the sound of gunfire just now. No surprises. This proves that the 5 armed police members who penetrated the defense were found and shot with the enemy robbers. Shootout. There is a good chance of damage now. What they were worried about still happened. I saw 2 minutes after the gunshots, 2 armed police officers were carried out by their colleagues. The armed policeman at the front, covered in blood, yelled at the crowd, quick, quick. Ambulance, come to the ambulance. The bank was surrounded, and not only people from the armed police center came, but ambulances and medical teams were also on call at any time. When the medical team saw that there were injuries, they rushed to respond immediately and took the injured armed police members into ambulances and transported them to the hospital. Qingxi, what's the situation? How could this be? The injured team member was sent to the ambulance, and Li Gang, the commander-in-chief, immediately grabbed the blood-covered armed police member. Why did you have a situation? What happened inside? Captain, we have been discovered, we have been discovered. Shen Cheng said with crystal tears in his eyes. How could it be discovered that there was a problem with your actions? Li Gang asked with a pale face. No, there was no problem with our actions, it was the group of robbers, they were not as simple as we thought. Shen Cheng took a deep breath and said, we used the rope to go to the 2nd floor of the bank and enter through the back door. The back door is just as you expected, Captain, the group of robbers did not expect that there is a security door. We passed through the back door safely and bypassed a group of robbers guarding the back door on the 1st floor, but we didn't expect that the group of robbers would break up into pieces and fight in scattered. Quote. Just when we were going downstairs, we encountered another group of robbers. There were 6 of them, and the leader of the criminal gang was Lu Heilong. He appeared on the 2nd floor, found us, and started a shootout with us. We used the terrain to walk and retreat. Xiao Lu and Da Zhang were hit in the shootout. We also killed a robber on the other side. Li Gang's face was shaking slightly. His plan failed. The level of cunning of the enemy is far beyond his imagination, resulting in mistakes in judgment and injuries and accidents to the team members. Zhou Ziyan clenched her fists tightly and looked at the speeding away ambulance. What happened to the 2 team members? Lu was hit in the thigh. Da Zhang was hit in the lungs of the chest. I don't know what happened to them, what will happen? The armed police member Shen Cheng's voice became choked up. This is my responsibility. The plan failed and I didn't consider it carefully, which caused you to have an accident. As the captain and the person in charge of the operation, I have an inescapable responsibility. Li Gang was pale, his eyes widened, and he did not shirk his responsibility. Captain, the surrounding armed police members all looked at Li Gang, heartbroken, and some lowered their heads. Team Li, now is not the time to take responsibility, but how to face the group of robbers and successfully rescue the hostages. Ning Cheng took a deep breath and persuaded. Ning Cheng, you were right. Li Gang looked at Ning Cheng complicatedly. Your advice to me was right, I didn't think it through, I shouldn't act rashly and underestimate Lu Heilong. But the situation is very complicated now, and it is far beyond what we can deal with now. I think we should apply for military intervention. Ning Cheng said. I don't think so. There is still a chance to turn around. At least our 5 comrades have just brought back a very important piece of information. What information? Li Gang asked. According to this colleague, there is a group of robbers at the back door on the first floor of the bank, and there are also robbers on the second floor. That group of robbers is Lu Hailong's group. Ning Cheng's eyes flickered with firmness, and he said his guess, saying, I think Lu Hailong may have turned a whole group of robbers into different hands and guarded the various passages of the bank to guard against us. Single quote. And Lu Hailong is sitting in the central, dispatching his subordinates. Li Gang said. What you said is very reasonable. The situation is likely to be like this, so I think it is more necessary to rely on the personnel of the military to deal with this. Captain Li's method is indeed fine, but while carrying out this method, I think I can also try my method. What way? Let me lead a group of people into the bank and rescue the hostages. Ning Cheng said. I was in front, entered from the main gate of the bank, and negotiated with the robber Lu Hailong. Captain Li arranged for different team members to penetrate through the bank's channel, and strive to kill those robbers at the same time, that is, the first time. Quote. Li Gang and Zhou Ziyan were instantly stunned. I don't agree with you, Ning Cheng, you are courting death, it is impossible to succeed. Zhou Ziyan immediately objected. Do you know that they are a group of robbers who don't care for their lives? You enter the bank to negotiate, and they are likely to kill you. They are all outlaws and won't trust the police negotiation. I'm sure I won't die. Ning Cheng took a deep breath and said solemnly, and I think if the plan works, I can get rid of the criminals at the front of the bank and rescue the hostages. At that time, it was up to me to attack the east and west. You must kill those robbers in different channels of the bank in time. The plan can be completely successful. Ning Cheng's plans are not aimless. Armed with world-class marksmanship, Ning Cheng is sure to face a group of desperate gangsters. In addition, even Lu Hailong is hidden inside the bank and controlled by remote control. Ning Cheng can also find Lu Hailong by using the pursuit function of the map, and kill or arrest him. No matter how deeply hidden Lu Hailong is, in front of Ning Cheng, it will be as if there is nowhere to hide. Ning Cheng, I don't agree with your plan. Li Gang shook his head and said solemnly, I know you want to rescue those hostages, I can understand, and I can rescue them too. But I can't disregard your safety. If you enter the bank alone to negotiate, the risk is too great, too dangerous, and I don't agree with this plan. Diaresis, I'm sure, Captain Li. Ning Cheng insisted. It's not enough to be sure, bullets don't have long eyes, and no one knows what those gangsters are thinking. If you just enter the bank, they will kill you as soon as possible without even giving you a chance to say anything. What are you negotiating with? Li Gang stopped. Don't forget, we just organized an investigation operation and killed one of the other party's robbers. Now the group of robbers must be furious. You enter the bank and may become the target of venting their anger. Ning Cheng gritted his teeth, unable to persuade Li Gang, the commander-in-chief. It is impossible for him to say that he has the skills, so he can face this action with confidence. It simply doesn't work. Just when Ning Cheng was anxious, suddenly, a violent gunshot sounded from the sky. In an instant, Li Gang, Ning Cheng, Zhou Ziyan and surrounding police officers all looked inside the bank and their expressions changed. The gunshot came from the robber in the bank. A probe operation they organized just now failed, and now the robbers inside the bank are likely to be furious and take revenge on the hostages. Really, not long after the gunshot, a yellow hair swaggered out from the gate of the bank's iron gate. Even at this moment, countless armed police pointed their guns at him. Huang Mao was not afraid at all, and there was even a mocking smile on the corner of his mouth. Do you dare to shoot? If you dare to shoot, 10 people will be buried with me. Anyway, I don't mind dying. After all, there are so many people buried with me, it's worth it anyway. Huang Mao was arrogant and took out the ordinary hostages in the bank as a threat. An anger flashed across Li Gangyi's face, and he said solemnly, What do you want to do? Let the hostages go, we can have a good talk and say what you want. How is it possible that the hostages are released? Huang Mao sneered. Let the hostages be released, we have already been given to you by you, and of course we have to have a good talk. Otherwise I won't come out, but it's up to us to talk about it. What do you want to talk about? Li Gang asked. Are you the person in charge here, able to make decisions? Huang Mao glanced at Li Gang and asked questioningly. Our boss said that if we want to talk, we must be someone who can call the shots, enter the bank to talk, and follow our requirements, otherwise we will not guarantee the safety of the hostages. Don't play tricks with us. We've seen a lot of the police. We're all people who carry our lives behind our backs. As long as there's a bit of tricks, I really don't mind killing a few very Jiao people for you to see. The surrounding police officers were stunned and faintly angry. If the steel gun could be fired, I am afraid that this arrogant yellow hair was already dead and could no longer die. That's it, I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. We have to see the conditions. We must be someone who can call the shots and enter the bank to talk. 10 minutes, give you 10 minutes to think about it, after 10 minutes, someone will die again. After speaking, Huang Mao swaggered into the bank. After Huang Mao left, leaders of all sizes and small groups related to the rescue operation gathered together, looked at Li Gang, and heroically recommended themselves. Captain, let me carry out this negotiation. In this negotiation, as long as one enters, as long as the slightest carelessness is detected, it is the ending of being shot. But no one was timid, and they all went heroically instead of Li Gang. No, I'm in charge of the operation, so I should go. Li Gang refused. I enter the bank, and the command of the operation will be handed over to Vice Captain Zhao. The mentioned Captain Zhao shook his head firmly and said, how is this possible? As the captain, you enter rashly. Once there is an accident, the entire operation will have an accident. Team Li, your safety cannot be compromised, it is better for me to enter. Quote. Don't argue, leave it to me. In the face of such a critical situation, Ning Cheng did not back down. You are not professional in negotiating, let me do it. Captain Li, I mentioned my plan to you just now. I entered the bank, cooperated with you inside and out, and eradicated that group of criminal gangs at the same time. Now is a good opportunity to implement this plan. Ning Cheng said. I entered the bank to negotiate, I can execute the plan, and I can also satisfy the robbers' demands. Li Gang and the others all looked sideways, their faces unable to hide their shocked and moved expressions. It's going to die, Ning Cheng. Li Gang persuaded earnestly. You are 20 years younger than me, and you still have a lot of good youth, and I heard about you. You are very capable and have a bright future. There is no need to go into troubled waters. Ning Cheng said lightly. Since I'm here, I won't sit back and ignore it, not to mention I don't think I'll die. Ning Cheng finally persuaded Li Gang. Not just Li Gang. It also includes the large and small captains and team members of the armed police. Watching Ning Cheng walk into the bank step by step, he has no turning back and no fear. All hearts immediately awe, respect. This term is almost like a bad street, and it may be used whenever something happens. But this moment is different. Even after many years, no one can forget this scene deeply imprinted in their minds. Because going to the bank is almost a mortal situation. But Ning Cheng still chose to go to the bank. Compared with many captains in the armed police, Ning Cheng is too young and has many youthful moments in his life. But he didn't even hesitate, and he took the initiative to enter the bank to negotiate with the group of fierce robbers. Zhou Zian's eyes were filled with sparkling tears, and she deeply remembered that back. As Ning Cheng's teammate, colleague and friend, he couldn't stop Ning Cheng's choice. This moment, Zhou Zian already felt remorse in her heart. Regret making that call to bring Ning Cheng to this robbery. This robbery case is different from any previous case. It does not rely solely on intelligence to solve cases and find the real culprit. This is pure robbery, with more than a dozen robbers running the bank with no regard for life. As long as there is any misstep, Ning Cheng will be shot and killed by the group of people, there is no reason to say. Those robbers can no longer be called by the concept of human beings. They can hardly be called human. It may be more appropriate to use the adjective beast to describe it. Because beasts eat people, ignore life, act recklessly, and have no reason. Ning Cheng. Yi Wanzhou covered her mouth, her body kept shaking, watching the back of Ning Cheng leaving. She wanted Ning Cheng to stay, but she couldn't say it. The decision made by Ning Cheng seems unshakable to anyone. Her persuasion was useless at all. But why did Ning Cheng choose to die? This rescue operation does not need his contribution at all, no need. Can't use him. The bank robbery case is different from the couple hijacking case that happened last time at the National Financial Center, where there is only one robber. But the bank has more than 10 robbers and more than 30 ordinary hostages. This situation is extraordinarily complicated, and it is simply not feasible for negotiation. In the event of an accident, with a gunshot inside the bank, Ning Cheng may be killed. Why do that? Why be so stupid? CDBC. Yi Wanzhou's hot tears blurred her eyes. Seeing Ning Cheng's leaving figure, she gradually crouched on the ground and cried bitterly. The vehicles in the armed police center were only a few hundred steps away from the main gate of the bank. Ning Cheng quickly walked to the main gate of the bank. The door was tightly closed, and he stood motionless in front of it, not speaking, not moving. He believed that Lu Hailong must be watching him secretly. Really. Shortly after, the door of the bank opened. From the inside, walked out the yellow hair who was clamoring for threats just now. Are you the negotiator? Huang Mao glanced at Ning Cheng, looking up and down. Yes, I am the negotiator. Ning Cheng nodded flatly. You little white face is quite calm. Huang Mao glanced behind Ning Cheng and grinned. They sent you here to serve as cannon fodder, what's the use of you here? I'm not a cannon fodder. Ning Cheng said calmly. As for my role, your boss is more clear about whether I am useful or not, your boss can judge. You idiot, do you think you're a cop? How dare you provoke and stab me in this situation? Huang Mao didn't hear any fear in Ning Cheng's tone. Instead, he was calm, and used language to fight back politely. He got angry all of a sudden, raised his pistol and aimed at Ning Cheng. Killing me will not help, it will only exacerbate conflict and confrontation. Ning Cheng said lightly. My colleagues and friends have surrounded the bank outside, and you can't escape at all. If you kill me, you will definitely not be able to escape from Zhongcheng City. Quote. Have you even thought about what kind of revenge you will receive from the police if you kill me? How dare you be arrogant? Huang Mao clenched his pistol tightly and grinned. Kill you, we still have hostages in our hands, and we can threaten you to send a negotiator here. Single quote. Childish, do you think it's possible? Ning Cheng smiled lightly and said, use your brain to think about it. Why is there a saying since ancient times that when the two countries are at war, they won't kill them? Have you ever thought about beheading to make the consequences, which is to cause the negotiation to break down? If you kill me, it will inevitably affect the police's judgment on you, thinking that you are crazy and unscrupulous. The police are likely to take drastic actions. In order to prevent you from further endangering the people of Zhongcheng and reduce the number of victims to a minimum, they will take violent measures, do you understand? Quote. Huang Mao's face was cloudy and uncertain, and Ning Cheng continued. I am the first negotiator and the only negotiator. You kill me. The police will not send any negotiators here. They will only think that you are crazy and a group of irrational beasts. And the best way to deal with irrational beasts is to take violent means and take you all in one pot. You robbers add up to no more than a dozen people. Our police have hundreds of people. In addition, the military, special forces and snipers are all in place. Where are you fleeing? I suggest you recognize the status quo. You have no strength to negotiate with us. You are qualified to negotiate only because you have kidnapped more than 30 ordinary people. Huang Mao was furious and wanted to press the trigger of the pistol, but found that he didn't dare to mess around at all. Although they are desperados, they do not want to die. If you don't want to live, you won't ask the police to negotiate. Ning Cheng's words were like a sharp blade slicing through Wang Mao's heart, opening his weakness and cowardice naked. If you don't want to kill me, let your boss come, and I can call the shots. I hope you find someone who can call the shots and talk to me. Ning Cheng could feel that his words would be heard by Lu Hailong, the leader of the bank robber gang. He may be spying on everything. You're right, this police officer. Suddenly, a cold voice came from the walkie-talkie behind Huang Mao. Huang Mao, take him to the bank, I want to chat with him. Okay, boss. Huang Mao said something into the walkie-talkie, then gave Ning Cheng a stern look. After bringing Ning Cheng into the bank, Huang Mao glanced at the dozen or so dark muzzles outside, thinking of what Ning Cheng had said, his body trembled uncontrollably. And the outside of the bank, the buildings on the commanding heights. Will there really be snipers, as Ning Cheng said? Huang Mao swallowed his saliva and immediately closed the door of the bank, which gave him a sense of security. Armed Police Vehicle Center. Li Gang, Zhou Zian and others listened to the voice of Ning Cheng and Huang Mao talking through the monitor, and couldn't help but sweat for Ning Cheng. Just in that case, Ning Cheng also dared to ask Huang Mao confidently. Almost provocatively, Huang Mao was speechless. It really made them gasp. Ning Cheng's negotiation skills are very professional. From the side, it reflects that Ning Cheng's achievements in criminal psychology are not only powerful, but also deep. Exclamation mark. Ning Cheng walked slowly into the bank. In front of him were 4 or 5 armed robbers. They all stared at Ning Cheng with bad eyes. As long as Ning Cheng made any threatening actions, he might be shot down. At the same time, Ning Cheng also saw a group of ordinary people squatting on the ground and shivering. Among them, there are all kinds of people: rich businessmen, old men, couples of men and women, middle-aged people and bank clerks. A cursory look, there are about 20 people. They saw Ning Cheng's arrival, with hope in their eyes. As a police officer, Ning Cheng gave them hope and hope for survival. The police didn't give up on them, they sent someone to rescue them. Look at what, if you want to save the hostages, you must agree to our conditions. Among the 4 or 5 robbers, the sturdy man said to Ning Cheng rudely. Promise your conditions, that should also guarantee that your promise will be fulfilled. Ning Cheng moved his gaze from the robber to the surroundings of the bank with barely visible eyes. According to intelligence, there are more than 10 robbers inside the bank. Far more than the 4 or 5 in front of him. Turn out to be. Armed Police Chief Li Gang organized people to go to the back door of the bank and found a group of robbers at the back door. And on the second floor, he met Lu Hailong in short battle. If you guessed correctly, Lu Hailong divided all the robbers into pieces and guarded the major passages inside the bank, while he sat in the center and commanded the robbers remotely. Ning Cheng couldn't help but admire the wisdom of Lu Hailong. Such a plan is very powerful, and it is easy to create constraints and troubles for the police. Because if you want to subdue and control this group of robbers, you must control all the robbers at the same time. Otherwise, if a group of robbers is not controlled, it is easy to threaten the hostages. And the robbers will fight back. Where are those robbers? Ning Cheng's eyes moved slightly, which was displayed using the system's map tracking. In the next second, a magical scene appeared on Ning Cheng's virtual system panel. The locations of the robbers in the bank were all in front of Ning Cheng's eyes. They have nowhere to hide. Except for the criminal who died during the sudden police investigation, there were 15 members of the robbery. They were divided into 4 groups. The first group is at the front gate, 5, the second group is 4 on the back door on the first floor, the second group is 4 on the third floor rooftop, and the other group, namely Lu Hailong's group, has a total of 3 people, sitting on the second floor. Central. There is only one way to deal with this group of people. The systematic map location of the hunted robber confirmed Ning Cheng's psychological guess. The robbers are indeed distributed in various positions of the bank, and the leader Lu Hailong is in the center to control. There is one and only one way to crack this strategy. Just at the same moment, overpower the 4 groups of robbers in the bank. And to subdue 4 groups of robbers, the most important thing is to solve the 5 robbers guarding the hostages in front of the main gate of the bank. Ning Cheng's eyes fell on the group of robbers guarding the hostages, his eyes narrowed slightly. What are you looking at? I hate your gaze, what are you looking at? The lean man said angrily. Nothing, our police have sent people to negotiate with you, you should show your sincerity at this time. Ning Cheng said lightly, your boss is Lu Hailong, why are you hiding? I know very well your method. It is nothing more than breaking the whole into pieces, dividing the staff into several groups, and guarding the various channels of the bank to avoid being taken away by the police. I admit that this method works, it is almost difficult to solve, and now you should send someone who you can call the shots to talk to me. Ning Cheng's confident tone made the hostages in the bank stare. Is it so sturdy? Totally rude to these robbers. The robber guarding the hostages was a little surprised, but great anger welled up in his heart. Ning Cheng, the negotiator, dared to treat them like this. Does he not know the status quo? Just when the group of robbers were about to go crazy, the walkie-talkie behind Huang Mao made a sound. What do you call this police officer? you have a lot of experience, and you saw through my plan at once. Lu Hailong's voice came out on the walkie-talkie. My surname is Ning, are you Lu Hailong? Ning Cheng asked. Yes, I am Lu Hailong, and I can make up my mind completely. Lu Hailong sat on the sofa on the second floor and said to Huang Mao, who was holding the walkie-talkie on the first floor, "Give the walkie-talkie to this Officer Ning, I want to have a good talk with him." The walkie-talkie was delivered to Ning Cheng. Lu Hailong said, "I can take charge of my entire criminal gang, can Officer Ning take charge of the entire police force outside? You are so young, you look like a cannon fodder sent in, it doesn't matter." Lu Hailong, don't try too much, all you care about is whether I can meet your conditions, not my qualifications, whether I can meet you. As Ning Cheng spoke, his index finger lightly landed on the watch, making a knocking sound that could hardly be traced. This is his signal to Li Gang, the captain of the armed police. Follow the plan. As long as he came in, after observing the situation, if he felt sure, he would carry out Ning Cheng's plan, to exterminate the robbers in every passage of the bank at the same time. This plan is very risky and difficult. This means that the police have to eradicate the back door of the bank, the robbers on the roof of the bank, and the robbers at the main gate of the bank, and then remove Lu Hailong's command center. The most critical of them is the robber at the main gate of the bank. There are the most robbers here, 5 in total, guarding the bank's hostages. The key to executing the plan is to eliminate the robbers at the main entrance of the bank first, and then deal with the criminals in other channels. And this task, which needs to be completed by Ning Cheng District. Ning Cheng can complete it so that other armed police can eliminate robbers in other bank passages. If Ning Cheng fails to complete, or completes in place, this will lead to robbers retaliating against the police, killing hostages and threatening the police. Then the whole plan would be shattered, and there would be no need to complete it. There was a long silence on the other end of the walkie-talkie. Lu Hailong sat on the sofa on the second floor, his eyes dimmed. Indeed, as Ning Cheng said, he asked the police to send someone who could call the shots. It's not about seniority and age, just whether it can meet his requirements. Ning Cheng is right, but Lu Hailong is still not satisfied. Ning Cheng, the negotiator on the other end of the walkie-talkie, was so crazy that he could almost pinpoint all his mind. This makes him very uncomfortable. And this young man is too smart, he is very clear about their psychology, it's just right to threaten and tender. Officer Ning, you are right. Lu Hailong's voice finally appeared on the walkie-talkie, with strong confidence and disdain. You are very smart, and you have a clear grasp of my psychology, but I don't like people who are too smart, especially this smart person who doesn't know how to restrain himself and is too arrogant. On the first floor, Ning Cheng's eyelids jumped. What do you want to say? I won't embarrass you. After all, you are a negotiating expert sent by the police. If you die, we will not be able to explain it, and we will not be able to prevent the negotiation from breaking down. You police take extreme measures, and we can't bear it. But, Lu Hailong changed his words and said, but this doesn't mean that you can unscrupulously overtake us and threaten us. Although we are no match for your police, we have more than 30 hostages in our hands, and we lost one. You can't afford it. This is our bargaining chip, and you must follow our rules. Huang Mao, I don't like the tone of this police officer Ning very much, cut off his finger for me. The hostility in Lu Hailong's tone was almost transmitted through the walkie-talkie. Ning Cheng's pupils shrank, staring at the yellow hair in front of him. At this time, Huang Mao gave Ning Cheng a wicked smile, as if he was very happy. Just at the gate of the bank, Ning Cheng provoked him, and he still remembered it. Once he had the chance to take revenge, he would attack him harder now than anyone else. Officer Ning, I wasn't the boss just now, so I couldn't handle you. Now that my boss has spoken, I won't be polite. I advise you to keep a low profile. We are all desperados who lick blood at the knife's edge, and our status is no more noble than yours. Take your hand out, if you dare to resist, you know the consequences. I'm too lazy to deal with you, just kill a hostage, what do you think? Ning Cheng's eyes are extremely sharp and his expression is calm. When he stepped into the bank, he had rehearsed countless scenes in his mind. I've even thought of a more ruthless trick than breaking a finger. There is no doubt that the group of people in the bank are real outlaws, murderers who do not take human life as their fate. Can't use common sense to think and speculate about them. Okay, yes, I apologize to Boss Lou for my aggressive words and deeds just now. In order to show my sincerity, I am willing to break my finger and do it myself. Now from the miniature bug, Ning Cheng did not receive the information from the Commander Li Gang that the team had penetrated the defense and only met the conditions of the robbers. Broken fingers. Ning Cheng really intends to break his own fingers. Don't play really. That must have fooled these robbers. As for the broken fingers, Ning Cheng believes that with the system, there is definitely a chance to regain his health. At this time, Ning Cheng just wanted to delay the time as much as possible until Li Gang, the captain of the team, was ready to blast the combined penetration team and attack the bank with precision. No need, let me come. Huang Mao gave a sinister smile and said bluntly. I don't believe you, this police officer. It's better for me to complete my boss's orders by myself, so that my boss can rest assured. By the way, stretch out your right hand, I have an index finger. Ning Cheng raised his eyes narrowed. All the ordinary people around took a deep breath. Everyone can guess the mind of this yellow-haired sinister. He wants to abolish the index finger of the right hand that Ning Cheng is most accustomed to. In this case, even if Ning Cheng can go back safely and his right fingers are abolished, he may not be able to use firearms in the future, which will affect the entire police and career destiny. Ning Cheng smiled lightly and stretched out his right index finger. A very slender index finger, it should be easy to break. Huang Mao grinned, holding Ning Cheng's index finger, the corners of his mouth twitched, and he suddenly flexed. Click, a small crisp sound suddenly sounded in the bank lobby. The shivering ordinary people looked away, unable to bear to look any further. Among the girls and female hostages, there were tears in their eyes, and a choked sound of choking came out. Hiss. Ning Cheng took a deep breath, the intense piercing pain made his face twitch, and cold sweat quickly permeated his forehead. Okay, can you let go? Ning Cheng's eyes fell like a knife on the palm that Huang Mao continued to hold on his index finger. Of course you can let it go, Huang Mao smiled, looking at Ning Cheng's expression of enduring the pain, he was extremely proud. The police officer is really a man. The pain of breaking your fingers can't help but make a sound. I want to try to break your other fingers. Will the police officer make a sound? Ning Cheng's killing intent condensed little by little in his eyes, but quickly subsided. At present, Li Gang, the captain of the army, has not yet prepared any measures, and he must endure it now, otherwise all previous achievements will be lost and everything will be over. Not only will he be finished, but so will the hostages in the bank. This is absolutely not possible. As for the pain, the heart-wrenching tears, the people who lost their families, the soldiers who fought on the front line of life and death, suffered far more pain than him. Boss Liu, are you satisfied now? Ning Cheng ignored the yellow hair and asked Liu Heilong directly. Very good, I am very satisfied. Liu Heilong sat on the sofa, and heard Ning Cheng's voice hoarse with a hint of anger and murderousness. It doesn't matter. It is good to have anger, and the more angry the better. Anger can make people lose their minds and lose their original plans. The young police officer, Ning Cheng, was overwhelmed with anger, and he liked it. His bangs just wanted to shatter the dignity of this Ning Cheng, to make him sober and understand the situation, who has the final say in this bank. The rhythm of the negotiation must be controlled by him. Huang Mao, step back, didn't you hear that this officer Ning was very upset with you? You're so close to him, be careful that Officer Ning loses his mind and kills you. Liu Heilong proudly held the walkie-talkie and said. Huang Mao smiled and said without concealment. Boss, I searched before this police officer came. He has no gun or knife on his body. Now he can't even hold chopsticks in his hands, can he still kill me? The dialogue between Liu Heilong and Huang Mao made people who heard the whole process angry. They are so shameless. This young police officer, entering the bank is risking his life. Now that his finger is abolished, his future police career may be gray. Outside the bank, the police car center. Through the miniature eavesdropping device on Ning Cheng's watch, the armed police chief Li Gang, Zhou Zian and others listened to the entire process of the bank's internal communication. The crisp, click, sound just now made them feel extremely painful and extremely angry. Zhou Ziyan's tears flowed from her eyes. She looked at Li Gang, the commander-in-chief, who said nothing, and asked angrily. Captain, how long do we have to wait? Ning Cheng has already lost a finger on his right hand. If this goes on, his entire life may be in danger. Are we ready? I know. Li Gang took a deep breath with trembling, and said. I know what Ning Cheng's great sacrifice, the loss of his right finger, means to a promising detective like him. But there is no information from the blasting team and the penetration team that they are ready to be in place. We must wait. Only wait, or act rashly, the accident of the previous team may occur, and I will never allow such a thing to happen again. I believe that Ning Cheng can complete the task. We have to trust him. Just wait. Why wait? Yi Wanzhou, who had been observing the situation by his side, suddenly broke out and asked Li Gang. You are incompetent and dereliction of duty. If it weren't for your dereliction of duty, this situation would not have resulted, and it would not have caused Ning Cheng to go to the bank and face such a complicated situation alone. As he spoke, Yi Wanzhou burst into tears. Her spirit seemed to collapse, and she squatted on the ground after speaking, and the sound of crying made people palpitate. Yi Wanzhou couldn't imagine how Ning Cheng could face the dozen or so outlaw criminals in the bank by himself, and what kind of excruciating pain he had to endure when his fingers were cut off. She couldn't feel it. If it was her, she must have fallen into despair at this time. Why doesn't Ning Cheng give up yet? Can you keep going? Reporter Yi, I admit that it was my dereliction of duty. I will report it to the city bureau after handling this incident. I will accept the punishment, but now it's a critical moment. I must trust Ning Cheng and the blasting team on the front line. Penetration team. I can't just make fun of Ning Cheng's life and the lives of those armed police just because I'm in a hurry. Only wait until the frontline demolition team and penetration team send me the information that I am ready to be in position, and Ning Cheng sends me the information that I can attack, and then I will issue the order to attack. I have to be accountable to them. I have to wait. Li Gang's earnest and sincere words calmed Yi Wanzhou's inner anger. But she still doesn't want to forgive. Captain Li, you are right, but this is a bet on Ning Cheng's life, that he can complete the mission. But there are more than a dozen deadly robbers in the bank, all armed with guns and extremely fierce. Ning Cheng is alone. You don't have any support. How should he deal with it? The more he spoke, the more excited Yi Wanzhou became. She also wanted to accuse Li Gang, but was hugged tightly by Zhou Ziyan. Wait, all right, now we just have to wait. Captain Li is right, now we have no other choice but to wait for Ning Cheng. Give Ning Cheng a little more time, I trust him. Inside the bank, looking at the fine beads of sweat seeping out from Ning Cheng's forehead, the corners of each gangster's mouth showed a cheerful and proud smile. Dare to be presumptuous in front of them, there is absolutely no good fruit to eat. They are robbers, gangsters, outlaws, and they have hostages in their hands, and even the police have to submit to them. Ning Cheng broke his fingers, and in their eyes, he undoubtedly chose to bow his head. Moreover, the painful appearance of having their fingers broken made their hearts feel extremely comfortable. It's a thrill that borders on revenge. How is it? Is that enough? Ning Cheng raised his head, took a deep breath, resisted the pain and asked into the walkie-talkie, Boss Liu, can we negotiate terms now? The sweat and pain on his face were not disguised, but real pain. The yellow hair was not polite to him at all, and just cut off his index finger abruptly. That pain. In an instant, it was really heartbreaking, straight to the soul. Okay, now that the police officer has recognized our face, I think we can talk about the conditions. Lu Hailong sat on the second floor, eyes closed slightly, and lay calmly on the sofa. Just that scene. In the case where he deliberately taught Ning Cheng a lesson, he believes that the purpose has been achieved. Deter Ning Cheng through lessons, warn the police that this group of fierce robbers are desperate, not afraid of the police, and dare to kill any provocateur. Not only dare to kill hostages, but also dare to kill the police. Lu Hailong knew very well how his criminal gang was formed. Although it is said that they are a group of outlaws and murderers, they are still naturally afraid of the police. Especially now that the outside of the bank is surrounded by the police, they can't escape at all. As for taking up arms to resist, it simply won't work. There is only one way. That is, through hostage, to blackmail the police and give up a passage of life. Only by doing so can they have a chance. Boss Liu, Offer your terms. Ning Cheng trembled slightly, enduring the pain in speaking to the walkie-talkie. I'm going out. I'm going to get 5 full cars. I'm going to get out. All our brothers are going to get out. Lu Hailong said bluntly. I don't want to hear the word, can't do it, in the mouth of the police officer. If it can't do it, I will kill a hostage next and let the police do it. Officer, you should be aware of our current situation, and there is no way out, but we don't want to stand still, so we have to use this method. I hope Officer Ning will not underestimate our determination. The finger just now is a warning. In addition, we are all gangsters, with 1 or more lives on our hands more or less, and we can only wait to die when we enter the prison. Officer Ning, we really don't mind killing a few hostages and burying them with us. Quote. The voice of Lu Hailong on the walkie-talkie was so clear that it made the hostages in the bank hall tremble, for fear that he would be the target of the slaughtered chicken and the monkey. Okay, I can promise you, 5 full cars. Ning Cheng did not hesitate, and directly agreed to Lu Hailong's conditions. In this case, Ning Cheng had no choice. If he didn't want the hostages to be injured or killed, he had to agree to the conditions. Fortunately, before entering the bank, Ning Cheng and the armed police chief Li Gang predicted Lu Hailong's condition. Agreeing to Lu Hailong's condition is within their expectations. It's not enough to have 5 fully fueled cars. There can't be any positioning devices on the car. If we find out, you know what the price will be. Lu Hailong threatened. We can meet all the conditions you put forward, but how do you guarantee the safety of the hostages in the bank? Ning Cheng asked. If you can meet the requirements I said, I will not be stingy to show my sincerity. Lu Hailong said. As long as I see 5 cars, I will release the hostages. There are 36 hostages in the bank. After I get the car, I will hand over 26 to the police. Lu Hailong said. Ning Cheng asked, what about the remaining 10? Officer Ning, are you so naive that I will hand over all the hostages? Lu Hailong smiled softly and said, we are robbers, not from the establishment of a shantang. Without guaranteeing our own safety, those hostages will never be released. 2 of the other 10 hostages will board the car with us. As long as your police dare to act or shoot, the hostages in the car will die. These hostages are our bargaining chips. For your police, I have to guard against them. Quote. Lu Hailong did not hide his plans at all. This plan is almost a conspiracy, there is no disguise at all. Lu Hailong is sure that the police have no way to crack it. The robbers in the hall of the bank understood, and knew that their boss had not given up on them, and couldn't help but sigh in relief. 2 hostages are arranged in the car, this is a guarantee of safety. Ning Cheng also understood Lu Hailong's plan, pondered for a while and said, I'm going to tell the police outside. Officer Ning, you mean that you can't be the master or the decision? Lu Hailong narrowed his eyes slightly, the police sent you here to amuse us. I can decide this, and I can promise you, no accident, the police outside will agree. Ning Cheng said lightly, we are aware of your concerns and the interests of your plan. We can agree. I want to go out. I just want to inform the brothers outside and send 5 cars to help you. It turns out to be the case, but I don't believe Officer Ning. After all, you are such a smart person, you can't guarantee what you will do when you go out. Lu Hailong said solemnly to the walkie-talkie. Huang Mao, run for Officer Ning and tell the person in charge outside that Officer Ning has agreed to our conditions, and ask them if they agree or not. If they say yes, that's fine. If you don't agree or are hesitating and delaying time, go back immediately and tell me. I will give this police officer Ning's head to the police chief outside and ask them to send someone who can call the shots. Quote. You don't believe I can call the shots? Ning Cheng asked rhetorically. I don't trust your police. Lu Hailong said unabashedly. It's the boss, I'll go right now. Huang Mao glared at Ning Cheng and immediately walked out of the bank gate. Ning Cheng glanced at Huang Mao's leaving figure, his eyes sharp as swords. The criminal leader Lu Hailong didn't believe him at all, even after breaking his fingers and abolishing force, so he used this method to test him. Ning Cheng is not worried that the Captain Li Gang will not agree or will delay, endangering his life. He had already installed the latest eavesdropping equipment developed by the police. This group of criminals is okay to talk about violent methods, but it is impossible to find out if they are careful. The current situation has long been known to Li Gang outside the bank, and he will make the correct decision. Ning Cheng's real concern is whether Li Gang's blasting team and penetration team are ready for the bank. Can the blasting and penetration teams be ready before the 5 vehicles are ready? It is impossible for the criminal Lu Hailong gang to get in the car and flee. Lu Hailong's plan was quite clever. 2 hostages were placed in 5 vehicles. There were hostages and robbers in each vehicle. Coupled with the convenience of the vehicle, it is really possible for Lu Hailong and others to escape smoothly. So, the best way is, before Lu Hailong and other criminals get into the car, they will all be killed. Restricting this group of criminals to the bank's confines and eradicating them can greatly reduce the unknown risk and the crisis of retaliation brought by the escape of this group of criminals in the future. Hope to be ready soon. Ning Cheng was looking forward to it in his heart, and he couldn't help but feel a little anxious. He really didn't want to see any casualties happen again. Once this group of criminal desperados are allowed to leave, it is bound to return the tiger to the mountain and there will be endless troubles. Right now, Ning Cheng suddenly widened his eyes. Surprise sparkle in the eyes. Just now he felt the vibration of the right watch, which was the sensing effect of the internal components of the bug. According to the agreement between Ning Cheng and the Captain Li Gang before coming. As long as Li Gang will be ready to blast the combined penetration team, he will be signaled. The slight vibration of Ning Cheng's watch bug is a ready signal. This means that Ning Cheng can take action against criminals in the bank lobby. And notify the blasting team and the penetration team deployed in each bank channel to start at the same time. We can finally do it. Ning Cheng raised his eyes and scanned the criminals in the bank lobby. Except for the yellow hair who just left. A total of 4 robbers armed with firearms stood in the hall of the bank, 2 with steel guns in their hands, guarding the more than 30 hostages squatting underground. The other 2 held pistols, and 1 stood on the edge of the bank door, waiting for Huang Mao's return. The other sat on the edge of the bank counter, playing with the pistol in his hand. The man did not speak, but the muzzle of the pistol was vaguely aimed at Ning Cheng. I'm afraid as long as Ning Cheng has the slightest change, this bad-eyed robber will shoot without hesitation. What to do with these 4 robbers in the bank lobby? Ning Cheng doesn't have a gun at all now. How do I get a gun and tackle the 4 robbers? It is impossible to deal with the 4 robbers through their own force, and I am afraid that they will be beaten into a sieve before Ning Cheng can rush over. He must find a gun, and in a very short period of time, kill these 4 robbers. The time has to be short, otherwise these robbers will take advantage of the hostages, hurt the hostages, and hurt Ning Cheng. And there is another situation. That is, after Ning Cheng fired, the sound of fighting gunshots would definitely attract the attention of the group of robbers in the back doorway on the first floor. Ning Cheng had to prepare himself for the failure of the blasting combo penetration team. Once the blasting combination for the back door passage on the first floor failed, Ning Cheng had to quickly face another group of robbers. It is extremely difficult to do this. Fortunately, Ning Cheng's own skills are sufficient to face such complex and dangerous situations. And the moment he entered the bank lobby, seeing the arrangement of the robbers in the lobby, Ning Cheng formulated a simple and effective strategy in his mind. Get the gun first, then quickly take out the 4 robbers in the hall. He doesn't have a gun, but that yellow hair has it in his hand. It can be taken from that yellow hair's hand. Think yellow hair. At this time, the yellow hair outside the bank's gate just walked in with a pistol in his hand. He swaggered in, with a smug smile on his face. It seemed that Li Gang, the captain outside the bank, agreed to Huang Mao's request. At this time, as an ordinary police officer, Ning Cheng should have reacted uneasy, and carefully asked Huang Mao about the decisions made by the police outside. After all, Lu Hailong just said, as long as the outside police hesitate to delay, or refuse to agree, Ning Cheng will die. It was time for Ning Cheng to face life and death. It was normal for Ning Cheng to ask Huang Mao about the result. Ning Cheng walked over to Huang Mao, holding his trembling right hand with his left hand, with a look of pain on his face. What happened to the police outside? Did they agree to your terms? What do you think? Huang Mao laughed freely, and felt very refreshed when he saw Ning Cheng praying in a low voice. But this is far from enough. If Ning Cheng can be more humble and even begged him to tell the result, Huang Mao will be happier. You want to know the results of the police outside? Huang Mao smiled and said, "That's okay, Officer Ning, please beg me, and I'll tell you." Ning Cheng pretended to be strangely angry, but he couldn't break out anxiously, as if he was waiting for the judgment of life and death. "Please, please, I'll tell you." Huang Mao's laughter made the robbers in the other halls couldn't help laughing. As a professional negotiator, if Ning Cheng is betrayed by the police, the way Ning Cheng prays in a low voice will be quite interesting. They all wanted to see such an almost pompous scene. The hostage, holding his head and squatting on the ground, looked away, unable to bear to see Ning Cheng's humble appearance. After all, this heroic police officer came for them. "You want me to beg you?" Ning Cheng raised his head, stretched out his right hand and said, "It's you who mutilated me." "Yes, it's me who crippled you, what's wrong?" Huang Mao smiled proudly and said, "Even if your index finger can go out, it may not be cured in the future. It will definitely be bad for you to hold a gun in the future. Officer Ning, remember, this is my handwriting." Huang Mao stared at Ning Cheng's immobile index finger, and his words were not polite at all. His eyes stayed on Ning Cheng's abolished index finger all the time, as if he was appreciating the proud work, but he didn't see the other fingers of Ning Cheng's right hand at all. Crack! Suddenly, a crisp snap of fingers hit. Ning Cheng snapped his fingers on his left hand and activated the 3-second unlimited hypnosis skill. Although he and Huang Mao were less than 20 centimeters away from each other, Ning Cheng, with his own strength, was completely sure to subdue Huang Mao and take down the gun in his hand. But Ning Cheng didn't do that. Because the robber staring at the abolished index finger of his right hand was not the only one with yellow hair. Just now, he deliberately raised his right hand, which had lost his index finger, to act like a clown. Not only to attract Huang Mao's attention, but also the attention of the robber not far from Huang Mao. This moment, looking at the yellow hair of Ning Cheng's index finger and the robber at the entrance of the bank, his eyes were blank, and his spirit instantly fell into a trance. Just this moment, Ning Cheng's right arm suddenly grabbed Huang Mao's neck, and his left hand immediately took away the pistol in Huang Mao's hand. He raised his pistol and aimed first at the two robbers guarding the hostages. The pupils of the two robbers condensed, their eyes extremely stunned. I never thought that Ning Cheng would be so bold and dare to attack. And Ning Cheng's right index finger was obviously broken and abolished, how could he still use a gun? Their hearts, the moment Ning Cheng North broke his index finger, had been very relaxed, thinking that Ning Cheng was not a threat at all. Now who would have thought that Ning Cheng would come to this show? Watching the stunned look in the eyes of the two robbers, Ning Cheng fired quickly and decisively. Bang! Bang! The sound of two huge gunshots was deafening, as if to knock off the ceiling of the entire bank hall. After two shots fell, two bright red snowflakes mixed with white sprinkled into the air. The two robbers fell and died in great astonishment. Ning Cheng can use the left pistol method, and it is so accurate. This is naturally due to Ning Cheng's experience with world-class marksmanship skills. This skill is very powerful. It is useful for both left and right hands. It is a world-class marksmanship. It's just that Ning Cheng is right-handed and usually hides his skills in a low-key manner. Therefore, the left pistol method is hidden as a hole card, and no one knows. After the gunshots, the hostages crouched on the ground burst into screams. They were completely stunned. No one would have thought that Ning Cheng would suddenly attack and kill two criminals. At this point, the hostages scream and get upset. On the other side, the robber sitting on the bank counter immediately woke up from his shock, raised his pistol and opened fire on Ning Cheng. He didn't expect that Ning Cheng would attack so violently. The gunshots sounded one after another, and the robber was not a professional. The first and second shots did not hit Ning Cheng, not even Huang Mao, who was placed in front of him as a shield by Ning Cheng, until the third shot hit Huang Mao in the shoulder. At the same time, Ning Cheng fired just one shot, hitting the robber in the head. Bang! Like the popping sound of a bullet passing through a watermelon. The robber died. At this moment, 3 seconds have just passed. Almost instantly, Ning Cheng opened fire on the awakened robber. The criminal also fell down. In the hall of the bank, only the yellow hair that woke up, clutched his shoulders and let out a howl like a slaughtering pig. The robber just opened fire and hit him in the shoulder, causing Wang Mao to suffer terribly. What? Ning Cheng didn't talk nonsense. He stared at the yellow hair with horror in his cold eyes, facing his head, and decisively cut off the fire. Yellow hair is dead. Ning Cheng is crisp and has no interest in torturing him, mentally or physically. It's not that Ning Cheng doesn't hold grudges and doesn't want to do it. It was because at this time, the blasting team and the penetration team from the outside world heard Ning Cheng's gunshots and began to blast and break through the various passages of the bank. The gunshots of the police and the gunshots of the robbers and criminals rang out one after another. After hearing gunshots at the bank's back door and lobby, Ning Cheng immediately protected the hostage Shen. Diaresis, everyone keep quiet, don't panic, that's the sound of gunfire from the police and criminals, Diaresis. Everyone, don't walk around, stay here, stay by my side, or else the robbers may come out, and you will be safe. Ning Cheng yelled at the squatting hostage. Seeing Ning Cheng's invincible scene just now, the group settled down, as if they had found the backbone. Outside the bank, Zhou Zian, Yi Wanzhou and many members of the armed police who heard Ning Cheng's voice through the wiretap were all relieved at this moment. Ning Cheng is alive, not dead. Not only did he not die, but he also saved more than 30 hostages. No one was hurt. Ning Cheng, not dead, he is not dead. Great, Ning Cheng is still alive, God forbid, Ning Cheng is still alive. Yi Wanzhou's excitement was uncontrollable, and she whispered to the people around her. No one to blame, Yi Wanzhou was excited. When every member of the armed police, including the commander-in-chief Li Gang, heard Ning Cheng's voice, tears welled up in their eyes. Ning Cheng is alive, he is not dead. In the face of the complicated internal situation of the bank, Ning Cheng was able to survive. Not only survived, but successfully rescued the hostages. Really powerful, incredibly powerful. Ning Cheng is awesome. Suddenly a police officer couldn't help shouting, and the surrounding police officers also shouted in unison. Ning Cheng is amazing, but we can't be too happy now. In addition to the robbers at the main gate of the bank, there are robbers in other bank passages. We must block them and prevent them from attacking Ning Cheng. Zhou Zian's eyes were red, and after learning that Ning Cheng had survived, she remained calm despite being very emotional. It's not time to celebrate yet. Even if Ning Cheng had dealt with the bandits at the main gate of the bank, there were also bandits in other passages. The situation is critical, and now all the gangsters must be killed at the same time. That's right, the gangsters in other channels of the bank must be blocked now. Notify the blasting team and the defense team, and do it now. With hot tears in his eyes, Li Gang told the demolition team and the defense team of the bank channel on the walkie-talkie, do it now and support Ning Cheng. As soon as the voice fell, the blasting team over there immediately heard a booming blasting sound. Immediately afterwards, there was the sound of intensive gunfights. From the perspective of God looking down, the robbers who were guarding the back door of the bank and the roof of the bank were attacked by the armed police at the same time. A group of armed police members is in the range of 7 to 8 people. In numbers, they far outnumbered the guarded robbers. In terms of quality, the quality of professional armed police members is far superior to those of robbers. Not only in physical quality, but also in combat awareness and cooperation methods, they can crush this group of robbers. Furthermore, the armed police penetration team is extremely well equipped. Submachine guns, body armor, smoke bombs, flash bombs. All kinds of advanced weapons, when the armed police penetration team blasted into the bank, instantly crushed this group of robbers. This moment, the robbers guarding the back door of the bank, as well as the robbers on the roof of the bank, all collapsed in a very short period of time. This process lasts less than 10 seconds. The robbers in the 2 passages were either killed or shot and fell to the ground, screaming and wailing. In the face of the professionalism of the armed police members, these robbers did not pose a threat as hostages and did not cause any harm in the slightest. At the same time, the criminal gang Lu Hailong, who was sitting on the 2nd floor, changed greatly. The heavy gunshots made him jump up from the sofa. Lu Hailong's pupils widened dramatically. Holding back his trembling hands, he picked up the walkie-talkie and called to Huang Mao at the main gate of the bank. Huang Mao, how is the situation at the gate? Control the hostages for me. Now that the police have penetrated the defense, we must control the hostages, or we will all be doomed. Intense fear came from the overwhelming invasion. Lu Hailong yelled into the walkie-talkie, losing his calmness in the past. But there was no sound from the walkie-talkie, it was dead silent. Yellow hair, Lu Hailong roared uncomfortably, you speak too lousy. What are you talking about, Boss Lu? If you want to hear that yellow hair's voice, I'm afraid you won't be able to hear it until you go to the underworld. The voice of Ning Cheng came from the walkie-talkie, making Lu Hailong stunned. Inside the walkie-talkie, how could it be Ning Cheng's voice? Did Huang Mao get killed? But how is this possible? The main gate of the bank was guarded by 5 robbers. Ning Cheng didn't carry any guns. How could he kill 5 people at once? All 5 of his brothers had guns in their hands. And in the event of an accident, he will be notified. How can there be no sound? The fingers of Ning Cheng's right hand were also broken, so he couldn't use the gun at all. Even if he took the gun from Huang Mao, he wouldn't be able to use it at all. How could it be? Lu Hailong couldn't understand. What the hell is going on here? With so many restrictions, Ning Cheng was able to kill 5 gangsters and save more than 30 hostages. Is it possible? What kind of magic operation is this? Why didn't you speak? Unexpected. Ning Cheng smiled softly. There are so many things that you can't imagine. Even if you try your best, maybe you won't believe it. Don't worry, I'll find you later. Ah, Lu Hailong grabbed the walkie-talkie tightly, with blue veins on his forehead, and a roar like a beast roared from his throat. He really can't believe it. Ning Cheng can kill 5 gangsters by himself. Is this the Special Forces? It is estimated that the Special Forces could not achieve such a record when their fingers were broken. Time waits for no one. The gunfire in the various passages of the bank gradually ceased, and the entire bank fell into silence. Such quietness was ominous, causing Lu Hailong to explode with goosebumps all over his body and numb his scalp. If he can't think of a countermeasure, his bangs will be planted here. Completely. The front door of the bank. Ning Cheng is here. Ning Cheng was on alert after hearing gunshots at the bank's back door and rooftop passage. Ning Cheng breathed a sigh of relief when a group of armed police penetration team members came to the bank lobby after the gunshots stopped. Thank you, CDBC, for your support, Ning Cheng said to the team leader. We should thank you, and thank Comrade Ning Cheng for his dedication without fear of sacrifice, the armed police captain said. The danger on your side is the greatest. One person must withstand the threat of 5 gangsters and be able to rescue them. The hostages are mainly due to you. The captain looked at Ning Cheng with reverence and admiration. The captain used to be from the army, and he could see the injuries on Ning Cheng's body. The index finger of his right hand was clearly broken. In this case, it was a miracle to be able to kill 5 gangsters with a gun in his left hand. Let's stop blowing business with each other. Ning Cheng looked at the group of people who were full of joy, and said, move the people to a safe place. Single quote. Okay. Ning Cheng and the armed police team opened the door and sent the hostages back outside the bank. When the people who had just been kidnapped walked out of the gate of the bank and saw all the armed police with steel guns in their eyes, they were filled with a sense of security. Take a look at the blue sky and breathe the fresh and natural air. After the catastrophe, there is nothing more than this feeling of joy in my heart. Many people even shed tears. You are the cutest people. Outside the cordon, the people who had been anxiously waiting for the results of the rescue operation cheered when they saw the bank hostages being rescued. Clap, clap, clap. Thunderous applause resounded throughout the street, and reporters, large and small, pressed the shutter of the camera to record the moment. No doubt, Ning Cheng and the members of the armed police who participated in the rescue operation are deservedly the cutest people. At this time, among the rescued hostages, a young girl came over to hug Ning Cheng and said thanks. A little girl wiped away her tears and kissed Ning Cheng's cheek, and a wealthy boss gave Ning Cheng a business card, said there was a chance to have a meal. They each have their own way, expressing thanks to Ning Cheng. All of them will not forget who was humiliated and tortured on their behalf in the bank hall. In the end, Ning Cheng killed the 5 gangsters and rescued them all. This love is bigger than the sky. Without Ning Cheng's actions, many of them would probably die. Ning Cheng nodded, comforted them, and then properly placed the hostages in the security center. Then Ning Cheng met Zhou Zian, Yi Wanzhou, and Li Gang, the captain of the armed police. Thank you for your hard work, Li Gang said gratefully, suppressing his excitement. It's okay, this is what I should do. Ning Cheng nodded. Li Gang opened his mouth, his eyes fell on Ning Cheng's right index finger, a flash of sadness and anger flashed. Ning Cheng, are you okay? Zhou Zian also saw the injury of Ning Cheng's index finger. Go to the hospital quickly. Single quote. No, I know my injury. Ning Cheng shook his head, rejected the proposal, and asked, where's Lu Heilong, was he killed? Lu Heilong was not killed, he is now blocked by us on the second floor, he is in a dilemma. Li Gang said, I have already ordered the person to be arrested. People like him must be tried and executed. Is he not dead yet? Ning Cheng thought about it and said, I want to see Lu Heilong and bring him back. You, Li Gang hesitated. Why not, Captain Li? Ning Cheng smiled. My left-hand pistol is also very accurate, otherwise I wouldn't be able to kill 5 gangsters and save the hostages in the hall. This is a grudge between me and Lu Heilong, and it can also be said to be my personal request. Ning Cheng continued. Okay, be careful. Li Gang finally agreed, allowing Ning Cheng to capture Lu Heilong. Thank you. Ning Cheng turned and went back to the bank. Yi Wanzhou looked at the figure without turning back, and was full of admiration and respect. People like Ning Cheng are really the kind of people with sublime brilliance in the book. It's impossible, it's impossible. Lu Heilong realized something was wrong when he received the walkie-talkie, and began to retreat behind with the remaining few men. He didn't expect that Ning Cheng, who he thought was already a plaything in his hands, actually killed 5 of his subordinates. This is impossible. Boss, what should we do? This is a death sentence. A hand holding a gun trembled slightly, the sallow face lost its ferocity, only fear remained. To shut up. Lu Heilong slapped him flying, and his subordinates were immediately stunned. Huang Mao has cut off his hand just now. Do you really believe that this person can kill so many of our brothers by himself? Hearing these analyses, his subordinates gradually calmed down and asked viciously. But I asked the other brothers just now, and they didn't answer. If they hadn't been caught by those, how could they not speak? The brothers around heard it, and they all started to feel anxious. They murdered and set fire. They didn't do anything. The reason why they were willing to follow Lu Heilong before was simply because of their own interests. Most of them were fugitives who had committed crimes. If they were caught this time, what would be the difference from throwing themselves into the net? It's all you. Among the few people, a thin man with long black hair rushed up and grabbed Lu Heilong's neck. While breathing heavily, he smiled grimly, his face was grim, and his men kept working hard. If it wasn't for you, how could we have voted for you? Laozi dragged you first. After being reminded by him, several people seemed to wake up, and the eyes of Lu Heilong began to gradually become unkind. Cough, cough, stop. Are you trying to strangle me? Lu Hai's eyes are splitting. He has always been a self-proclaimed folk zug, and he likes to play with the psychology of these people between applause. There are countless people who have been indirectly killed by him. But he never thought that he would have such an embarrassing moment, being strangled by the neck, like a fish on a sticky board, without even a chance to struggle. Nothing would have happened without this one called Ning Cheng. Before he could think about so many things, Ning Cheng had already led him straight to the second floor. The sound of footsteps sounded, and several people present were anxious. What should we do now? The black-haired man finally realized that now was not a good time for infighting. He put down the hand that was holding Lu Heilong's neck, his eyes were red, like a beast being cornered. Put down the gun and don't move. The armed police filed in and controlled several of the slippery fish who had committed heinous crimes. At this moment, several people who usually kill people without blinking their eyes were completely defeated at this moment. And Lu Heilong was so hated that his teeth almost shattered, and his eyes were splitting, and he roared at the black-haired man. Do you know that we could have a chance just now, but we were messed up by you, God? It's over. It's over. His voice is hoarse and his face is hideous. Even if he is an evil spirit from hell, it is not an exaggeration. The 2 armed police rushed over and held him to the ground, their faces pressed to the ground, extremely embarrassed. Lu Heilong, have you pleaded guilty? Ning Cheng took a gun in his left hand, walked out of the group of armed police, and looked at him coldly. Lu Heilong was pressed to the ground, raised his head hard, and looked at Ning Cheng viciously. You bloody, I should have shot you down just now. He always prided himself on being smart, but he didn't expect to fall into the hands of this yellow-haired boy. If it wasn't for him to control the situation outside, the black-haired man wouldn't suddenly turn back. An armed policeman gave him a hard kick, and if he hadn't been pressed by two people, Lu Hailong would have already flown out. You did something wrong and took dozens of hostages. Not only did you not want to repent, but you also wanted to continue to hurt Officer Ning when you were caught. What a beast. Among the dozens of hostages, old and young, if Ning Cheng hadn't come to negotiate voluntarily, they would have been passive and the consequences would have been unimaginable. Thanks to Officer Ning, all the armed police had tears and anger in their eyes at this time. The most painful thing in the world is that a hero is humiliated by a villain. Officer Ning should not suffer this hardship at all. Hee, no matter how tough you are with me, I still cut your finger, police officer, it hurts, right? I think they are so nervous about you, could it be that you are still an important person? Lu Hailong knew that the situation was at its worst, anyway, it would be a death, so it might be better to take the opportunity to have a mouthful. You really don't cry without seeing the coffin, Lu Hailong. What if I told you that from the moment you came in, you'd already lost? Ning Cheng sneered, put down the gun in his hand, and squatted in front of Lu Hailong. Don't look at me with such pitying eyes. I tell you, if this fool hadn't suddenly turned against the water, I wouldn't have been planted. Lu Hailong roared in anger. Did you still think that you really had the chance to win, Lu Hailong? Didn't you realize that you were led by the nose from the very beginning? Ning Cheng ignored Lu Hailong at all, and patted his collar with the hand holding the gun in disgust, as if it was stained with dirt. Seeing him like this, Lu Hailong was completely angry, gritted his teeth, and grinned. Officer, you don't need to tell me this. Your hand is already useless. If you want to be promoted again in the future, you will be hanging. You actually speak for them, which really touches me, ha 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 ha. Thinking of the days after Ning Cheng, Lu Hailong felt relieved for a while. As for what Ning Cheng said, he didn't care at all. Just under his rhythm, Ning Cheng didn't dare to make a sound when his finger was cut off. This is his ability to manipulate people's hearts. Lu Hailong, your plan is very thorough and the success rate is very high, but you made a fatal mistake today, that is, you are cowardly. If you dare not kill me, I have already won. Ning Cheng said lightly. He proposed to let himself negotiate. The biggest hidden danger of this plan is that if Lu Hailong kills him regardless, Ning Cheng can only fight recklessly. However, under the influence of Ning Cheng, Lu Hailong didn't think about killing him at first. Lu Hailong is a smart person. When he was reminded by Ning Cheng, he suddenly realized that he could have killed Ning Cheng long ago. The key to this incident is the hostages. As long as there are injured hostages, the police will not dare to do anything. Instead, it is because of Ning Cheng's life that there are so many hidden dangers. I should have killed you. Lu Hailong suddenly burst into flames and wanted to catch Ning Cheng, but was pressed to the ground by the armed police next to him. Lu Hailong, you like to watch others perform according to the script you arranged, watch them make themselves smart, watch them suffer, you are their god, they are manipulated but don't know their destiny should not be like this. So, have you ever thought that your fate will also be manipulated? After defeating Lu Hailong's psychology, Ning Cheng walked downstairs without looking back. Since Lu Hailong likes to play with people's hearts, he will completely defeat his psychology. Before being arraigned, Lu Hailong will be tortured by his inner pain. This kind of person who takes the pain of others as pleasure is impossible to repent. Only by playing with his psychology in the same way can he admit defeat. A clown on the stage, being dragged by the puppet master's arm, but naively thinking that he is the master, this is the biggest blow to an extremely proud person. I lost. Lu Hailong knelt on the ground, tears streaming down his face. After this battle, many armed police soldiers have regarded Ning Cheng as their idol. Killing 5 gangsters in a row with their hands broken, they ask themselves that they could never do it. 2020. As soon as Ning Cheng walked downstairs, he was surrounded by a group of people. Officer Ning, how did you do it? What a god! Several armed police held down the tearful Lu Hailong, and everyone was shocked for a few seconds when they saw it. How to make a criminal without empathy feel miserable. Such a vicious man who can make a bank robbery plan by himself has no conscience. What did Ning Cheng do? Zhou Zian asked worriedly. What happened to you up there? Ning Cheng smiled and put it lightly. Just to let him know that he is just a clown in fate and is being fooled. Just as Ning Cheng was talking, Yi Wanzhou rushed in and hugged Ning Cheng tightly. Ning Cheng, congratulations. Yi Wanzhou raised his head, and his face was full of surprises that could not be concealed. Zhou Ziyan helped her forehead helplessly. The top priority is to deal with Ning Cheng's finger quickly. Reporter Yi, don't look at him talking as usual now, in fact, every second is a heart-wrenching pain. Yi Wanzhou gave Ning Cheng an embarrassed look. She really didn't expect it, so she smiled. Okay, then I'll go there to deal with my work first. For such a big robbery, I've been busy recently. Zhou Ziyan took out the spare medicine box and pen and made a simple bracket for Ning Cheng's finger. You should be thankful that this is just a broken finger. Criminals are not very professional. If you cut off your finger, it will not be as flexible as before even if you take it back within 10 minutes. Captain Zhou, are you still watching this? Zhou Ziyan took out the medicine box she was carrying and rummaged for something. Fractures and dislocations are the same thing as eating in the army. When you have the opportunity to participate in SWAT training later, you will understand what I mean. At this time, a group of reporters outside also heard the news and rushed in to interview Ning Cheng in a hurry. Officer Ning, can you tell us how you killed the 5 gangsters by yourself? Ning Cheng, I heard that you were a rising star in the police world. Why are you responsible for negotiating? Don't you think you are too young? Countless noisy voices came through the microphone, and anger flashed in Zhou Ziyan's beautiful eyes. Ning Cheng's index finger is injured. It is a major event related to the future, but these journalists who hear the news only care about the so-called news. Sorry, Officer Ning is injured and in urgent need of treatment, please let it go. At this time, a police car drove directly over, and the armed police cleared the way in front, and quickly pushed the reporters away. The window rolled down, and Ning Cheng and Zhou Ziyan's eyes lit up. Team Li. Li Gang stuck his head out of the car and smiled heartily. Boys, what are you waiting for? Get in the car and I'll take you to the hospital. After getting in the car, Ning Cheng sighed in relief. Does it hurt? I think you will dare to be a hero in the future. Zhou Ziyan glanced at Ning Cheng helplessly, her tone delicate and naive. Where has Ning Cheng seen Zhou Ziyan like this? He knew in his heart that she cared about him, so he smiled. Captain Zhou, stop making fun of me. Tell me, if I'm not here today, will you go? Zhou Ziyan was stunned and nodded for a moment. That's what our police do. Yes, this is the duty of our police. Boy, I think you have a future. Our team is recruiting people recently. Have you thought about becoming a special police officer? Li Gang looked at the rearview mirror with satisfaction in his eyes. Of course Ning Cheng knows what Li Gang is talking about, but his main purpose now is to solve the case, and with the system in place, his kung fu will not be bad. Sorry, Team Li, I want to stay in the team, please understand. In fact, Li Gang also knew that it was too difficult to want Ning Cheng to become a special police officer, because he was brave, resourceful and quick-witted. If he became a special police officer, he would have narrowed the road, but he asked because he was cherishing his talents, and he refused. It also makes sense. Good boy, it's a good thing to have ambitions. Anyway, you are serving the people everywhere. After a few minutes, the hospital had arrived, and a nurse immediately surrounded Ning Cheng and took Ning Cheng over to treat the wound urgently. At this time, before everyone knew it, there was already an uproar on the internet. All the property of the hostages has been confiscated, but there is still someone who wrote this incident on his Weibo, and this person is a million-level online celebrity game anchor. Iron Sons, long live the... Do you know what the blogger just encountered? Bank robbery. God, I can't even think about it. The robber actually has a gun. I thought it was dead, but I didn't expect this one. Cheng Yaojin was killed, and a handsome little policeman killed 5 gangsters with 1 enemy and 5. Once the article was posted, it immediately aroused numerous responses. Countless people think this is fake, and even suspect that bloggers are grandstanding. Are you kidding me? What bank robbery? The law and order are so good, when are their guns? However, other victims soon responded. At the scene, I was also kidnapped. The police officer not only defeated 5 but also when his index finger was forcibly cut off by the gangster. The person who replied is the CEO of a listed company, which immediately brought huge traffic to this article and was directly topped on Weibo Hot Search. The Zhongcheng bank robbery ended perfectly, and the main force was actually a handsome police officer who just joined the police force. Under the various posts, reporters did not want to be left behind and directly posted photos of Ning Cheng, which many people recognized. Isn't this the little brother who rescued the kidnapped girl? I heard that the situation was critical at the time. Officer Ning knew that the robber had a gun in his hand but went there voluntarily. Long live the police officer. I said Officer Ning is the cutest person. Do you have any opinions? I just want to say, officers, you are the one who protects us, and you are the cutest people in the world. At this time, in Zhongcheng First People's Hospital, Ning Cheng was helplessly rejecting the nurse's request for hospitalization. Nurse Bai, look at my hands, there's nothing wrong with me, and I don't need to be hospitalized at all. Head nurse Bai Yu looked cold, but Zheng Mei glared angrily at Ning Cheng at this moment. Do you know that your hand is seriously injured? Fortunately, you came in time. If you slow down a little bit, maybe you won't be able to pick up a gun in the future. So serious? Ning Cheng was a little stunned. Although he was in a cold sweat from the pain, he knew his strength. How could it be so serious now? One of the meridians in your hand is broken. If it weren't for Dr. Lu Yuantao's presence, your hand might not be able to keep it. Bai Yu hated the iron and clicked on the film on the table. Zhou Zian, who came with her, spoke directly. Hospitalized. I just called, and Zhang Suo specially granted you sick leave. My colleagues all told you to stay in the hospital, so don't even think about going back. Seeing this, Bai Yu breathed a sigh of relief and cursed again. I really don't know what you guys think every day as a police officer. It's hard work to be a police officer. You haven't given yourself time to rest. I, the nurse, can only persuade you. In the future, this hand can't be used. I think you regret it or not. How can you say it is so serious? Ning Cheng saw it. Bai Yu reminded him to let him recuperate, but now that he has the knowledge of forensic medicine, how can he not see his own situation? It's just that Bai Yu and Zhou Zian are always for his good, so Ning Cheng didn't refuse. Old Zhang in your institute, didn't he hurt his kneecap when he was chasing the gangsters before? The big nurse told him to take good care of him, so he went fishing, and now his knees hurt every time it rains, so he didn't do it by himself. Bai Yu was talking while calling someone to help Ning Cheng register for the hospital. Ning Cheng didn't expect Nurse Bai Yu to be so cool, but she was a warm-hearted person, and she suddenly had a lot of goodwill. Thank you, I'll trouble Nurse Bai. After staying in Zhongcheng First People's Hospital, a large number of visitors came the next day. Director Zhang Chao and colleagues from the second team came first, followed by people from other teams. Ning Cheng, congratulations on cracking another major case. I have applied for first-class merit for you. I believe there will be results soon. Zhang Suo, thank you. It should be. Zhang Chao now appreciates Ning Cheng's eyes more and more. Although Ning Cheng has made great achievements now, he has a hunch that Ning Cheng will not stop there. Lao Zhang and his colleagues came up together and put the flowers and fruit baskets in their hands on the table. Ning Cheng looked at the bedside table full of flowers and fruits, speechless. What are you doing? I'm injured, not shot. Are you making too much noise? We didn't send it. Old Zhang Junkai raised his eyebrows and approached Ning Cheng. Did you know that you are already popular on the internet now? Those female netizens, who have never seen you in person, are clamoring to give birth to monkeys for you. I see young people today, I don't understand. Quote. Old Zhang, you just don't understand. This shows that our Xiaoning is charming. Colleagues are amused. When I heard that Ning Cheng was injured, everyone in the facility became more nervous. Now that Ning Cheng is fine, everyone's hearts are relieved. Ning Cheng, you really don't let us live. Originally, all the beautiful police flowers in the police station are all your fans. Now there are so many people on the internet. That's right, what did you say you were doing so hard? Several colleagues feel that there is no hope of finding a match, and they have been living in the shadow of Ning Cheng. They will be asked by the target if they know who Ning Cheng is. Woo-woo-woo.jpg. Ning Cheng also laughed when he saw this, and Zhou Zian next to him said with a smile. Netizens know that you are injured, and they don't know where to send things to you. They can only send them here to Zhongcheng First People's Hospital. Don't look at so many here, there are more outside, and there are still people who send them to you. I'm afraid your bones won't grow well if you have specially boiled pork bone soup. So exaggerated. Ning Cheng is always out of state, his right hand is wrapped, and he is not playing with his mobile phone. Naturally, he does not know that he has already been on the hot search on Weibo, and that the same video as before will be liked in the future. At this moment, someone knocked on the door outside. After Mu Xiaoyu opened the door, she was a little puzzled. You are, that's it, we are reporters from Yangshi, and we will do a follow-up investigation and interview about the previous robbery of a large bank in Zhongcheng. The leader was a polite man with a microphone in his hand. He wears gold-rimmed glasses, has a decent appearance, a face with a Chinese character, thick eyebrows, piercing eyes, and an upright body. Seeing the reporter from CCTV come to interview, Director Zhang Chao had a hint of excitement in his eyes, and ordered everyone to go out and wait. Come on, let this comrade interview first. Let's go back to work first. Ning Cheng, if there is any situation, just call someone. I have left 2 colleagues here to guard you. Okay. At this moment, Zhang Xuanbin smiled slightly, moved a chair to sit next to Ning Cheng, and motioned to the photographer behind him to start the live broadcast. He has been a reporter for CCTV for a long time and knows how to create a more comfortable environment. My name is Zhang Xuanbin, a reporter from CCTV. Hello, Police Officer Ning. Ning Cheng's eyes were shocked. He was actually a reporter from CCTV. Hello, what do you want to ask me? We are following up on the follow-up of the Zhongcheng Bank robbery. In the previous interview, we learned that the robber had a gun in his hand. Do you know about this? That's right. Then did you decide to negotiate when you knew that the other party had a gun? According to our interview with your teammates, they said that you have applied for second-class merit and have succeeded. If has a bright future, take a risk and you think does it worth? The question was actually building an image for Ning Cheng, who knew it almost immediately. CCTV wants to use his image to promote the fight against illegal and criminal activities, so it is very good. Yes, I chose to negotiate just because I think I have the ability, and saving our people is the common mission of all police officers. Officer Ning, your profound sense of righteousness really touched me. Now netizens have voted you as the cutest person. What do you think of this title? I think, instead of saying that I am the most lovely person, it is better to say that all those who serve the people are the most beautiful people. After the CCTV interview, Ning Cheng became an instant hit, and many passers-by who knew him on Weibo joined his fan group and called for him to open a Weibo. Originally, Zhang Chao also wanted to let Ning Cheng open one, but was rejected by Ning Cheng. He didn't want to be famous, he just wanted to continue to settle and solve the case with peace of mind. Zhang Chao was both relieved and sighed. Later, CCTV reporters cut the last sentence of this interview into this year's moving characters clip. Almost all people who help each other will say something like, serve the people. Maybe a really lovely person. His fame will not make people pursue heroism, but let everyone become their own hero. Chapter 91. After the interview, Ning Cheng could finally rest for a while, and the sound of the system also rang. Congratulations to the host for completing the robbery of Zhongcheng Bank. You can get the following rewards. Reward 1. US stock information in the next 7 days. Bonus 2. Free repair of physical trauma. Reward 3. Body enhancement level 1. Hearing the rewards of the system, the first one is in Ning Cheng's plan. The second physical recovery helped Ning Cheng, who was actually a little afraid that his right hand might be damaged. Does this mean that as long as the case is completed, the injury will be treated? But this is just Ning Cheng's guess. If he can recover from the injury, then he can do it with confidence. Ning Cheng has always disliked doing things without confidence. He has already made up his mind. Next time, he will try the system to see if there is any injury and he will use a chance to reward him. The third reward was physical reinforcement, but oddly, Ning Cheng didn't feel physically any different than before. Is it a level 1, so it's not obvious? There will be a chance to find out later. After a week of rest in the hospital, Bai Yu, Lu Yuantao and others have become fans of Ning Cheng, and the nurses are even more concerned about Ning Cheng every day, for fear of something wrong with Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng really couldn't handle this. He arrived every week, and after going through the discharge procedures, he went directly to the second team to report. Team Joe, I'm back. After arriving at the police station, all the teammates came up to congratulate Ning Cheng on being discharged from the hospital, and Mu Xiaoshui touched Ning Cheng's shoulder enviously. You've come back, you don't even know it, you've been away this week, and we haven't encountered any major cases. Do you think it's strange? When Ning Cheng heard Mu Xiaoshui's words, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. Could it be that you are still looking forward to a case? Although we are the police, we can't wait for an accident, you guy. I don't. It's just that I think every time you're with us, we'll have a big case. Before he finished speaking, the alarm line suddenly rang. Mu Xiaoshui was shocked and went straight to pick up the phone. This is Zhongcheng Police Station, what happened? Diaresis. Ooh, dead, Chao Xian. It was a gentle female voice, but hoarse with sadness. Ma'am, please calm down and tell me clearly, what did you see? I saw, Wu Wu, head over to him, hanged himself. The woman let out a cry of despair, and Mu Xiaoshui's heart tightened, and she said with some pity. Where did you find the body? We will rush over immediately, you should stay at the scene and don't move, don't destroy the key evidence. Okay, we are here at number 15, Tianong Road, South Gate, police officer, you must come over quickly, I don't know why is he so suddenly? Feeling that the female voice on the phone was about to lose her mind, Mu Xiaoshui gave Ning Cheng a wink. No, 15 Tianong Road, right. Just wait, we'll be there in 10 minutes. Hearing Mu Xiaoshui's words, he knew that there must be a case, so Josie directly asked Mu Xiaoshui what was going on. Someone hanged himself, Team Zhou, let's go take a look. Josie frowned and said. Suicide, Ning Cheng said directly. It is uncertain whether it is suicide or not. The cases reported by these onlookers are likely to involve homicide. Only after the actual autopsy can a conclusion be drawn. Ning Cheng is right, let's go. Josie was hesitant at first, but when he heard Ning Cheng's words, he took the second team directly. A group of people went straight to the scene. In the police car, Ning Cheng asked Mu Xiaoshui what information the woman had just said on the phone. Mu Xiaoshui repeated the woman's original words to Ning Cheng, and Ning Cheng spoke bluntly. The nature of this case is still unclear. How can you be so sure that it was suicide? Mu Xiaoshui choked for a moment and got a little angry. What else can happen if you hang yourself? As a police officer, all you should believe is evidence. Josie gave Mu Xiaoshui a stern look and instructed. Understood. Mu Xiaoshui was a little unconvinced in her heart, but she didn't say it. Soon several people arrived at Tianong Road. After inquiring, they found that the case happened on the 7th floor of the 3rd building of the residential building. On the 7th floor, Ning Cheng first noticed a man and a woman standing at the door, and made a gesture for Mu Xiaoshui and Tang Xin to check the corpse first, and then go and talk to the two of them. Ning Cheng took out his documents and asked directly. Police, was it the first body you found? Yes, officer, I just went out for a while, and it was fine when I left. Why can't people think about it all of a sudden? The person who spoke was a beautiful-looking woman, and she wiped her tears with her hands as she spoke. However, Ning Cheng noticed that the crime score of this woman who looked like Lin Daiyu was as high as 139, while the tall man next to her was actually 117. There must be something wrong with these two. What's your name and what's your relationship with the dead? Now at the first crime scene, if this case has something to do with them, if they ask questions here, even the most powerful criminals will reveal some flaws in the face of the corpse. Diaresis. My name is Kai Shaoli, and I am Chao Shan's girlfriend. His name is Fang Hai, and he is Chao Shan's friend. Kai Shaoli wiped her tears. I'm asking you too, not you. Ning Cheng stared at Kai Shaoli. Shaoli is also in a hurry, thinking of helping me by the way. Fang Hai quickly explained. Ms. Kai Shaoli, I want to ask, what is your relationship with Fang Hai? Ning Cheng noticed it as early as when he met the two of them. Although Kai Shaoli and Fang Hai were standing far away, her toes would unconsciously point towards Fang Hai when she spoke. Will be rusty. After hearing Ning Cheng's words, Kai Shaoli's face flashed with anger. Officer, of course, Fang Hai and I are also friends. My family has a good relationship with him. Of course I am willing to believe him. What do you mean? I'm not interested, but I'm just asking out of curiosity. You two, you may have to take a little time to go to the side to register the situation with our colleagues. Seeing Kai Xiaoli's resistance, Ning Cheng knew in his heart that he couldn't pry her mouth open now, so he had to find a breakthrough. The two were taken aside by the team members for questioning. Fang Hai kept comforting Kai Xiaoli, and the surrounding police officers also persuaded her. Seeing this scene, Ning Cheng smiled and said nothing, and walked directly to the first crime scene. Mu Xiaoshui had already checked the body with Tang Xin at this time, and Tang Xin took off the disposable gloves. The time of death of the deceased was 7:30, and the error was not too large. The preliminary judgment was that he died of suffocation. Ning Cheng walked forward, bypassing several colleagues, and saw the dead man hanging from a climbing rope. The corpse's eyelids were bleeding, the lips were cyanotic, and the eyes were slightly open, looking terrifying. Ning Cheng stepped forward and asked for a pair of disposable gloves to conduct a preliminary examination on the body. It is indeed hanged, but I don't think it should be that simple. Judging by the guilt value of the two people he just saw, these two people are definitely not innocent. But what if their guilt had nothing to do with the case? Ning Cheng was lost in thought. What's the matter? This case has stumped Officer Ning. Tang Xin rarely saw Ning Cheng so serious. Ning Cheng looked at the corpse and said, if it is determined to be hanged, then it will be more difficult to do. Mu Xiaoshui felt strange when she heard this. Why, if it was hanged, doesn't that mean that the person committed suicide? You still need to think about it. No, I asked Kai Xiaoli and Fang Hai outside just now. Their relationship is not very common. In my opinion, there should be another hidden meaning in this matter. Ning Cheng expressed his inference. I said, aren't you a little stunned? Since Tang Xin said she was hanged, what else is there to hide? Mu Xiaoshui disagreed. Ning Cheng did not speak to Mu Xiaoshui's question. At this time, the colleague who asked brought the file over, and Ning Cheng quickly took it and looked at it. How is it? Mu Xiaoshui asked anxiously. The deceased's name was Zhao Chaoshan, the manager of the marketing department of Shanghai Pie Company. Kai 223 Xiaoli was his girlfriend, and Fang Hai was the deputy manager of the marketing department of Shanghai Pie Company. But didn't you just say that Kai Xiaoli and Fang Hai are? Mu Xiaoshui was confused. Let's not talk about the two of them. According to Kai Xiaoli, after she and Zhao Chaoshan finished eating, they sent Zhao Chaoshan back at 6 o'clock, but after returning at 8:30, they found that Zhao Chaoshan was dead. The deceased was so young and handsome, how could he commit suicide without thinking about it? Mu Xiaoshui sighed regretfully. The police officer who made the transcript explained, I heard that Zhao Chao competed for the position of general manager of the company for a while, but he didn't succeed, so he was very drunk tonight. A drunk person will do things that he can't think of at ordinary times. Maybe the deceased is stimulated by alcohol and can't think about it for a while, so he commits suicide. Mu Xiaoshui expressed her own analysis. Ning Cheng disagreed. Would a person who became a marketing manager at such a young age hang himself because he failed to run for general manager? At this moment, Kai Xiaoli walked in with red eyes. Maybe it's because Chao Xian can't stand the pressure. He's been drinking a lot lately. He's usually a very good person, CDBC, persuade him. Mu Xiaoshui hated the girl crying the most, and immediately went to the side to comfort her. This Kai Xiaoli left after sending the person back at 6 o'clock, and the deceased's death time was indeed 7:30. Could it be that Kai Xiaoli really had nothing to do with this case? Ning Cheng didn't want to believe his own judgment, but at 7:30, Kai Xiaoli and Fang Hai said they were shopping. You two will go shopping together at 7:30. Yes, oh, yes, I also bought something, look. As if remembering something, Kai Xiaoli took out a small ticket from her handbag. The checkout time shown above is impressively 7:33. It will be my birthday in a few days, but Chao Xian has been feeling uncomfortable recently and often gets mad at me. I want to buy myself a necklace, but Chao Xian is very drunk. I can only ask Fang Hai to accompany me. I didn't expect such a thing to happen. If I knew I would not want this necklace. Is that the one on your neck? Ning Cheng looked at the necklace on Kai Xiaoli's neck. Yes, what's the problem? It's beautiful. Why did you go with Fang Hai? I met him on the way back before. Fang Hai came over to look for Chao Xian's information on the next plan, and I happened to meet me on the way. I thought that Chao Xian would be so drunk that I would definitely not be able to get up, so I suggested that I go to the mall first. Maybe he will wake up when he comes back. Kai Xiaoli's answer was correct, but Ning Cheng always felt that it was inconsistent. Does Zhao Chaoshan have any good friends? Since Kai Xiaoli and Fang Hai couldn't make a breakthrough, Ning Cheng decided to find another way. Here, I remember that he had a very good boy named Li Yang. He lived upstairs, and he should be there now. Just upstairs, Ning Cheng and Zhou Zi, who came over, exchanged glances, and went upstairs in unison. Lead the way. After arriving at Li Yang's dormitory, Ning Cheng knocked on the door, and soon came out a man with slippers and messy hair. Seeing the group of people outside, he was obviously startled. Who are you? Why are you at my door? Ning Cheng took out his documents. Police. Do you know Zhao Chaoshan? I know, he was my child. What happened to him? Li Yang was a little stunned, not knowing what happened. Zhao Chaoshan died in the dormitory, right downstairs from you. Li Yang, do you know what's going on? Zhou Zi's eyes were burning. What? Hearing the news of Zhao Chaoshan's death, Li Yang took 2 steps back, saying it was impossible. Why not? Ning Cheng examined Li Yang's expression. Why did he die suddenly? Officer, who killed him? You must find out. According to our current investigation, it is very likely that he committed suicide. How is this possible? Li Yang opened his eyes wide, his pupils trembling slightly. I always feel that he is different from me. No matter what competition it is, he will fight and he is very motivated. If he kills himself for that, I really... What's the matter? Ning Cheng pressed on. Some time ago, he ran for general manager, but he failed. I heard Xiaoli say it and went to comfort Chaoshan, but he didn't listen. He didn't even want to see my face. I really can't help it. Li Yang, what are you doing between 7 and 8? I played games at home after dinner today. Until now, Chao Xian. Did he die at 7 o'clock? This is not the question you should ask. Our people will investigate the records in your computer later. As for now, let's go and make a note with me. Okay, wait a minute, I'll change clothes. His expression was sad, it really didn't look like a fake. However, looking at Li Yang's back, the sin value of his body is impressively displayed 189. When they got downstairs, several people had already put down Zhao Chaoshan's body. Ning Cheng walked over to Tang Xin. Well, did you find anything else? Not yet, how about you? Found the deceased's Fa. According to him, he has been staying at home and playing games today and has not come out. The technicians will investigate his computer later. Let's wait. After everyone was busy for a while, Zhou Zi looked at the file for a long time before frowning. In this case, the time of the deceased's death was 7:30, but the surveillance showed that no one entered the deceased's room between 6 o'clock and 8:30 after Kai Xiaoli and Fang Hai returned. The cops report to each other. Kai Xiaoli and Fang Hai went to the mall. I checked the surveillance and receipts in the mall, and they were indeed in the mall. Li Yang has been playing games. I just checked his computer. His game account is always online, and the monitoring at the door also shows that he has never been out. After listening to everyone's words, Mu Xiaoshui picked up the file and looked at it for a while before analyzing it. Kai Xiaoli, Fang Hai, and Li Yang all have sufficient alibi, and according to Tang Xin's preliminary autopsy report, the deceased died of suffocation. I think the case is very clear here. The deceased Zhao Chaoshan lost the election for the company's general manager, got drunk while eating with his girlfriend Kai Xiaoli, and then committed suicide under the influence of alcohol. Yes, judging from the results, it should be like this. Many colleagues agree. The case is already clear. With all the suspects having an alibi, there was no other option for suicide. Zhou Zi nodded and looked at Ning Cheng. Then go here first today. Everyone has collected almost the traces of the scene. Let's go back today. Wait, Team Zhou. Ning Cheng stopped the group. I stand by what I just said. Mu Xiaoshui was a little angry. Ning Cheng, don't think that every case has a hidden meaning just because you have solved a few cases. It was originally a suicide case. You insisted that it was a homicide, which made us run here. A group of people has been busy for so long. No abnormality has been found now, you are still biting. Ning Cheng didn't care about other people's opinions, but Mu Xiaoshui was wrong. If the deceased was really killed, don't we police officers want to give him justice? But he simply committed suicide. Mu Xiaoshui felt that Ning Cheng was simply unreasonable. Zhou Zi also persuaded, okay, don't talk about it, Ning Cheng, otherwise you can go back and have a good rest today. Team Zhou, you should know my character. How could you waste everyone's time for other reasons? Please give me another 10 minutes. I want to conduct an autopsy myself. If there is still no result this time, then I will not continue. Waste everyone's time. Ning Cheng's attitude is very firm. The surrounding police officers looked at each other in dismay, and they all persuaded in unison. Ning Cheng, why do you insist so much? Enough, give Ning Cheng another 10 minutes. Zhou Zi thought for a moment and decided to give Ning Cheng another chance. Ning Cheng didn't waste any time, he directly called Tang Xin Siri to time it for 10 minutes, then put on disposable gloves and stood in front of the corpse and began to think. Zhao Chaoshan's body was suffocated to death, and the most important thing about suffocation is to distinguish whether it was strangled or suffocated by hanging. If you are strangled to death, it is also a symptom of suffocation, that is, eyelid bleeding, cyanotic lips, dark red blood flow inside the corpse, spot bleeding on the visceral serosal surface, and visceral congestion. Tang Xin had already checked these before, but Ning Cheng did not repeat it, but chose to check the tongue of the deceased. What is this doing? Although Mu Xiaoshui insisted on making her own judgment, seeing Ning Cheng's abnormal behavior, she couldn't help but ask Tang Xin. I don't know, maybe, give Ning Cheng another 10 minutes, he can really give us a miracle. Tang Xin looked at Ning Cheng, who was attentive and had a strange feeling in her heart. It would be great if she could be as confident as Ning Cheng and still stand by herself despite so many people's doubts. At this time, Ning Cheng was not as relaxed as Tang Xin thought. He clearly knew that there must be a murderer among these people, but he couldn't let them know because they didn't know the reason for the system. No matter whether he could find the murderer this time, he couldn't let his conscience go uneasy. Ning Cheng knew that to determine whether it was suicide or homicide, only the last place to be checked was the hyoid bone. Tang Xin has just checked, and the streak on the deceased's neck is the same as the streak on the deceased's neck, so make sure. Wearing disposable gloves, Ning Cheng put his hand down the dead man's throat. What are you going to do? Kai Shaoli suddenly shouted, Chao Xian is already dead, if he committed suicide, please don't humiliate him like this. The police are handling the case, don't bother. Kai, are you really so sure that your boyfriend committed suicide? Tang Xin stopped Kai Shaoli, her eyes burning like torches. I just don't want Chaoshan's body to be treated like this. Kai Shaoli explained. Don't worry, we have a measure. Although Mu Xiaoshui disagreed with Ning Cheng's judgment, she still subconsciously defended him. I got it. Ning Cheng's eyes lit up, and there was an obvious bulge on the right side of the deceased's hyoid bone. With this evidence, it should be able to support the case on file. The hyoid bone of the deceased was fractured, which was caused by suffocation by external force. There is insufficient evidence now, and the method of death is not known for the time being, but it is definitely not suicide. Is that so? Zhou Zi looked at Tang Xin. Tang Xin immediately put on a muzzle to examine the deceased's throat, and after a while, her expression became complicated. Yes, if it is caused by suffocation caused by external force, that is, strangled, you can see symptoms such as hyoid fractures or strangulation marks on the neck. In that case, Ning Cheng, I'll leave this case to you, how about that? Zhou Zi looked at Ning Cheng. Don't worry, Team Zhou, I will definitely give justice to the deceased. At this time, Mu Xiaoshui was speechless. I'm sorry, Ning Cheng, Ning Cheng took off the gloves and asked, why are you apologizing? Yes, I don't believe you, if. Before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Ning Cheng. Your fault is that you shouldn't trust your own judgment too much, Mu Xiaoyu, you are a policeman, a criminal policeman. If you don't even believe him, the person who does justice for the dead if there is grievance, wouldn't we let the murderer go unpunished today? I'm sorry. Mu Xiaoyu gritted her teeth, swearing in her heart that she would never be arrogant again. And as a police officer, you should have sympathy, but you shouldn't be sympathetic to everyone. The first thing you have to learn is to distinguish between the murderer and the victim. I understand. Mu Xiaoyu glanced at Kai Shaoli, who had just been comforted by her, and did not dare to speak again. According to Ning Cheng's guess, didn't she almost take the person who might be the murderer as the victim? In your opinion, who would the murderer be? Ding. The hyoid bone fracture of the corpse was caused by external forces. The point I doubt is that, first of all, the motive of the deceased to commit suicide is not sufficient. According to his life, a top student who graduated from a famous university and has a beautiful girlfriend will lose because of the competition for the general manager. And suicide, to me, is a joke. Secondly, if you ask me who the murderer is now, I can't give you a guarantee, because I will only speak with facts. Ning Cheng said sonorously. So you mean, you think Chao Xian killed him, but you don't know the murderer? Kai Shaoli questioned. Although I don't know who the murderer is now, Kai Shaoli, I can guarantee that you are not innocent. Ning Cheng looked at Kai Shaoli and pressed her eyes with sharp eyes. You, police officer, what do you mean by that? The police like to have no evidence. Are the plain and innocent people, 227, innocent? Kai Shaoli was very angry. She clenched the bag in her hand and wanted to rush up. Fang Hai quickly stopped her. Shaoli, calm down. I just don't understand. I was shopping at the mall at that time. What the police officer meant, did I kill Chao Xian? Ning Cheng laughed. Even if you didn't kill it yourself, it has nothing to do with you. Kai Shaoli, I don't have any concrete evidence now, so I won't convict you directly, you can relax for now. You are unreasonable, police officer, I have heard of you before, the famous police officer Ning. I heard that you have solved many cases before, and every one of them is a murderer who framed someone else. Fang Hai saw Ning Cheng's stubborn bite, and began to ridicule. That's right, be careful, we'll post your face on the internet right now to expose you. Kai Shaoli was completely angry, her eyes were full of grievances. Seeing that the war was raging here, Li Yong hurried over to persuade him. Officer, although I know that you want to be innocent of Chao Shan, you don't have to be so aggressive. Shaoli is Chao Shan's girlfriend. We all know that the two are very affectionate. How could Shaoli harm him? Zhou saw that there was a lot of quarrel here, so he had to come to mediate. Ning Cheng, why do you always think there is something wrong with Kai Shaoli? If she really has a problem, you can point it out, but our police can't identify people without evidence. Ning Cheng sneered, of course I don't have any concrete evidence, but just based on one point, I can conclude that Kai Shaoli, your relationship with Zhao Chaoshan must not be as loving as you said. Kai Shaoli looked at Ning Cheng so determined, her heart skipped a beat, and she said in a trembling voice. What do you mean? Let's watch this video with me. Ning Cheng picked up the police officer's computer next to him, and it was the video of Kai Shaoli and Fang Hai walking in the dormitory building at 8:27. When Kai Shaoli and Fang Hai heard the surveillance, they were obviously nervous for a moment. When they saw that it was just the surveillance outside the dormitory, they couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Officer, what do you want to explain? Isn't this monitoring normal? Next to Zhou and Mu Xiaoyu, they focused their attention and still found no abnormality. The police officers were talking. We have already seen this monitoring, and there is no problem. And it hasn't been edited by anyone. What the hell is Ning Shen trying to say? I don't think it's because the case came out after a week's rest. I want to make a name for myself. ... Everyone, take a closer look. Indeed, there is nothing special about this monitoring, but you can see that the Kai Shaoli here is different from the current Kai Shaoli. Ning Cheng took a step back so that everyone could see the surveillance. Mu Xiaoyu focused her attention, but she still couldn't see anything wrong. All the police officers gathered around. As a minute passed, everyone became impatient. Kai Shaoli was a little proud when she saw this. Ning Cheng, don't hold back, just say what you have, surveillance will not help you deceive people. Ning Cheng, what are you doing, what's wrong with this surveillance? Mu Xiaoyu was a little nervous. You're right, surveillance won't deceive people. Please see, compared to surveillance, is there something more on Chi's neck now? Ning Cheng laughed. More necklaces. Mu Xiaoyu suddenly realized. That's right, Kai Shaoli, if you really love Zhao Chaoshan so much, how can a woman put on her new necklace after seeing the body of her beloved? You. Kai Shaoli's face turned pale, and she didn't know what to say. The surrounding police officers also began to question. If you bought the necklace and put it on, it can be explained that it is because of your love for beauty, but your boyfriend is hanging in the house now, and when you called me, you were scared to death. In this case, you shouldn't you tell me you still love beauty? Fang Hai immediately questioned, Xiao Li can wear it if she wants. What does it have to do with you? It's just a necklace. Ning Cheng calmly said, indeed, this is just a necklace, but Fang Hai, I just need this necklace to prove that Kai Xiaoli is not as deeply in love with Zhao Chaoshan as it seems. Even if I don't love him that much, do you invite me to die with him? Kai Xiaoli gritted her teeth. Nowadays, there are many men and women who are not deeply in love. Kai Xiaoli, your acting skills are very good and resonate very well, but it is this kind of acting skills that makes me begin to doubt you. If your relationship with Zhao Chaoshan is not so loving, why did you create an illusion in front of us that you and him are deeply in love, and wear this necklace that can provide you with an alibi? Is it for the love of beauty, or is it for the sake of concealment, to dispel the police's suspicion of you? These remarks were loud, and Zhou Zi made a complete decision. Kai Xiaoli, now the police will take you back to the police station for summons, do you have any questions? Just when Kai Xiaoli was speechless, Ning Cheng spoke again. 1.2 inches Team Zhou, I propose to summon the three together. Fang Hai immediately froze. Xiaoli has been brought back by you, what do you mean? Do you think the three of us will harm Chao Xian? I didn't say that. As the witnesses at the first crime scene, there are still many details to confirm with you. Why do you think I think you are all murderers, or are you guilty? Ning Cheng walked up to Fang Hai and said, how is it possible? Go and go. Fang Hai has already understood that there are too many mistakes, so he simply doesn't speak again. Li Yong looked embarrassed. Officer, of course I can go back with you, but I have something to do with myself. I told my mother that I would go back to see her today. If she knew that I was summoned by the police station, I'm afraid that an old man can't stand it. Ning Cheng looked at Li Yong. This person's crime value is as high as 189, which is different from Kai Xiaoli's desire to perform, striving for perfection. Li Yong is very natural. When he heard the news of Zhao Chaoshan's death, his grief did not seem to be fake. When he was questioned by the police, he even took the initiative to add details. When Ning Cheng analyzed the case and found suspicious points, there was actually doubt in his eyes. His attitude is very natural, neither the pretentious grief like Kai Xiaoli, nor the irrelevant matter like Fang Hai's. If there is no reminder of the crime value, Ning Cheng probably will not find any problems. Don't worry, we can give you special permission to call your mother with your mobile phone at the police station and tell her to go back tomorrow. Li Yong, your best is dead, don't you want to find justice for him? Quote. Ning Cheng evoked a smile, and Li Yong's brows twitched when he saw him, his face slightly stiff. Of course, Sergeant. In that case, Team Zhou, take the three of them back first. I want to stay on the scene for a while. Mu Xiaoyu also applied to stay at the scene, while Tang Xin said that she would go back to work overtime for an autopsy first and write the autopsy report. Before leaving, Zhou Z23 found Ning Cheng privately. Ning Cheng, you and I both know that the time for this subpoena is very urgent. It's only 8 hours long. I have just checked that the Shanghai Pie Company goes to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. You rush to the Shanghai Pie Company as soon as possible tomorrow, and I will help you at the police station. You hold these three people. I know, Team Zhou, but I only have one request. Zhou Zi looked puzzled. What request? Never ask them before I have news. Ning Cheng's eyes were firm. What do you mean? Isn't the reason for taking a few people back to the police station just to ask for details? Team Zhou, it's only us now, and I won't hide it from you. The biggest doubt in the case now is that several suspects have no time to commit the crime, and they have sufficient alibi. The most important thing now is to open a breakthrough. Quote. In your opinion, where will the breakthrough be? Corpse, but we will take the body back to the police station later. If you want to stay at the scene for autopsy, the family of the deceased will definitely not agree. Zhou Zi thought that Ning Cheng wanted to conduct an on-site autopsy. On the contrary, Team Zhou, what I want is the first scene without the body. You want to find the way of death directly through the death scene. Zhou Zi suddenly realized. Yes, now the case is deadlocked, and the deceased is undoubtedly strangled to death. Since I am sure that it was homicide, I only need to determine how the deceased was strangled to break the ice and apply for a summons for 24 hours. That's why you didn't let me ask them, because I didn't have any real evidence, and asking them would strengthen their vigilance. Yes, it is very important to confirm the cause of death of the deceased today, because only by knowing how the deceased died, can I have the confidence to visit tomorrow and find the motives of the murders from the clues. Ning Cheng looked at Zhou Zi, very firm. How many people, you mean, do you think this is a team committing the crime? Zhou Zi's eyes moved. After Zhou Zi left, a banner was already raised at the scene, and Mu Xiaoyu asked Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng, do you have any clues now? I'm going to find out what the cause of the deceased's death is. But the body has been taken away by Tang Xin, why don't I understand what you are talking about? Mu Xiaoyu asked the same question as Zhou Zi. Do you know why there is a subject of trace studies? Ning Cheng asked rhetorically, and then walked into the room. You mean you want to find out how the deceased died through the traces at the scene, but didn't you say strangulation? No, Ning Cheng, you still understand traces. Mu Xiaoyu questioned one after another, and hurriedly chased after him, for fear that she had missed something. A little bit. Ning Cheng walked into the room and began to look at the place where the body was hung before. In Ning Cheng's opinion, although it was late at night, everything was very clear in front of him. The deceased went through quite a painful struggle before dying. How could a drunk man go looking for a climbing rope and then hang himself in a knot? If it is an impulsive suicide, then after 12 seconds, you will regret it, and the deceased has a strong character, not an impulsive suicide tendency. Judging from the corpse, it was indeed hanged, but Ning Cheng looked at the hook above his head. The hook was made of high manganese carbon steel, and a rope would not leave marks on it. Ning Cheng gave up and started searching elsewhere. Ning Cheng, didn't you want to see the scene? Why did you go to other places now? Mu Xiaoyu could never keep up with Ning Cheng's train of thought. You also look for anything suspicious in the deceased's house. Ning Cheng walked to the deceased's bedroom, and saw that there was an open cabinet under the bed, and it was full of debris, which had been turned over in a mess. It seemed that the deceased should have found the climbing rope from here to commit suicide. All these traces are consistent with the inference of suicide, but Ning Cheng did not want to give up and continued the search. Ning Cheng, I kind of want to go to the toilet. Mu Xiaoyu was suddenly a little embarrassed. It was definitely not good to go to the toilet at the deceased's house, but she couldn't hold back. This dormitory building was all separate dormitories, so she was a little girl who was now looking for someone else in the middle of the night. She must be embarrassed to borrow the toilet. Ning Cheng didn't think about it so much. He first checked the toilet of the deceased and found that there was nothing wrong except that it was a little dirty, and the vomit was also sampled, so he agreed. It stands to reason that the crime scene is absolutely immovable, but it is dead, and he is not a pedantic person. After getting permission, Mu Xiaoyu quickly closed the door, and then wiped the toilet clean with paper. The deceased should have vomited in the toilet before committing suicide. It seemed that he was really drunk. Hey, the more you think about it, the more disgusting it becomes. Mu Xiaoyu quickly hypnotized herself not to look at it. Outside the toilet in the dormitory building was the back of a building, and there was no one there, but it looked very depressed. Mu Xiaoyu didn't dare to look at it. This was the place where people just died. Suddenly, when Mu Xiaoyu got up, she found that something was wrong with the toilet window. The windows of this old-fashioned dormitory building are very strange. They are on 2 floors. Because the height of the floors is as high as 3.5 meters, the windows are push-pull windows, and there are also independent casement windows on the first floor. It stands to reason that such windows are generally used for lighting, but Mu Xiaoyu discovered that the window in the deceased's house was actually open. Something wrong. Mu Xiaoyu was shocked, and quickly flushed the toilet to let Ning Cheng in. Ning Cheng thought that something happened to Mu Xiaoyu, so he quickly pushed the door and came in. What's going on? Look, Mu Xiaoyu pointed to the window above the toilet. When Ning Cheng saw the open window, he directly motioned to Mu Xiaoyu to take a picture and save it, and then took out the disposable gloves in his pocket to start the inspection. It stands to reason that this window will not be opened. The window below is covered with a thin layer of ash, while the window above is very clean. Therefore, Ning Cheng judged that this window was only recently opened. But if it is just for ventilation, it is enough to open the lower window. The upper window is so high that the deceased Zhao Chaoshan's stature is 185, and he also needs to use a ladder to open it. So who opened the window? You helped me find a ladder. Ning Cheng ordered. Are you going to step on the ladder to look at the window? Mu Xiaoyu immediately looked for the ladder. No, don't use the ladder at the deceased's house. Go to the property in the dormitory building immediately and ask them to borrow a ladder. There may be traces left on the deceased's ladder, so you must not move. I understand. When Mu Xiaoyu went down to find the ladder, Ning Cheng saw a strange trace where the window was open. This old-fashioned dormitory building has tiles on the outside, and after a long time, the tiles have turned yellow and become a little jagged, but the tiles on the top of the head are concave and form a right angle because of the concave design. It was very dark at night and there was no light outside, but Ning Cheng saw a gap in the tile where the window was open. Is there a gap in this place? Knowing that he might have found an important clue, Ning Cheng turned on his phone's flashlight and began to observe the gap. Since the traces are very new, Ning Cheng judged that the notch is a recent wear and tear, and it has a radial shape from top to bottom. There is a fan-shaped wear from the outer tile to the right angle. The diameter of the notch is about 3 mm visually. The wear of 3 mm is obvious for the tile, but since it is on the outside, only people can see the wear by sticking their head out, so the previous police officers completely ignored it when they came to check. At this time, Mu Xiaoyu had already brought the ladder over. Ning Cheng, have you found any clues? Diaresis, I want to see if there is anything left on this trace. Ning Cheng put up the ladder, scratched the gap with a cotton swab a few times, and put it into the evidence bag. There seemed to be some dark marks on it, and there was a strange smell. Why is there a gap here? Mu Xiaoyu curiously stretched out her head and looked out, and happened to see the residue on Ning Cheng's treatment marks. Her eyesight is not that good, and it takes a lot of effort to see. Ning Cheng asked suddenly, what kind of wear and tear do you think this is like? Mu Xiaoyu pondered for a while, and replied, this gap seems to be a fan-shaped cylinder. It feels like, I don't know what it is for the time being, but it must not be a sharp weapon such as a knife or an axe. Indeed, the notch is small, but it is obvious to the tile, and, do you think this wear and tear looks familiar? Ning Cheng reminded. It seems a little familiar, but this kind of wear and tear is normal for this old-fashioned tile. Mu Xiaoyu frowned after watching it for a long time. But what if the gap is recent? I just checked and the window should have been closed before, so there is dust on the outside, but there is no dust in the inner profile of the window, it was opened recently. Ning Cheng spoke about the problems he found. So, the window that was only opened in the last few days, as well as the opening just now, are all related to this case. Mu Xiaoyu's heart skipped a beat. We shouldn't believe in coincidences. Any deliberate move will have its reasons. Did you just go to the deceased's house? Is there a ladder? Ning Cheng asked another question. Mu Xiaoyu reacted, pondered for a moment, and told Ning Cheng. I'm feeling weird. I checked the whole house with them before and couldn't find any ladders, and when I went to the property to borrow a ladder, the worker said something when he got up and opened the door for me. Why have you come to borrow a ladder recently? Anyone else borrow a ladder from him? Ning Cheng asked as he climbed down from the ladder. Yes, he said it was the resident who lived here, it was a man. Mu Xiaoyu replied. Who is it? Is it the dead? It should be. He said that the man was tall, and he was in his prime. He wore a suit and looked very particular, but he was a little rude, and he complained to me for a while. Ning Cheng heard the words and directly asked Mu Xiaoyu to lead the way to find the property. Who is it? TMD is tired of living, why is there anyone else? An irritable and rough male voice came from the room. Ning Cheng took out his documents, Diaresis Police. The man was holding his slippers. He was originally furious, but when he saw the tall Ning Cheng, he wilted, and his face became sad and his voice became a little quieter. Officer, I don't think I've done anything wrong, why do you keep coming to me? Ning Cheng observed his attitude and concluded that this person was an honest man who was bullying the soft and fearing the hard. He should have nothing to do with this case, so he took out his mobile phone and asked the photo of the deceased. You said someone else came to borrow a ladder from you before, is that the person? The man timidly looked at Ning Cheng's phone, and shook his head after a moment. It's not this person is more handsome. Mu Xiaoyu was a little surprised at the moment. Isn't it Zhao Chaoshan? Ning Cheng thought about it. He was tall and not Zhao Chaoshan. The deceased's toilet window should have been opened with a ladder. Wasn't he the one he borrowed from the property, but a friend? Wait, what if this window wasn't opened by the dead man himself? Ning Cheng's heart skipped a beat and immediately called Tang Xin. Tang Xin, ask the people in the institute to send me a photo of Fang Hai. Okay, did you find any clues? Perhaps. Ning Cheng was noncommittal. If it was what he guessed, then they could finish work tonight. After Mu Xiaoyu heard Ning Cheng's words, she thought to herself, it is true that Fang Hai is the same as the deceased. Because he is a salesman, he has been wearing a suit and is tall, but how could it be Fang Hai? After a while, the photo over there was sent, and Ning Cheng took out the photo. Look, is it this person? The man was dozing off all the time, but he woke up after seeing it, and said, yes, it's this person. What's the matter? Did he do something wrong? That's not what you should be concerned about, go to sleep. Ning Cheng smiled when he got a satisfactory answer. No, officer, when will I return my ladder? I'll have to use it tomorrow. The man muttered. Your ladder is not available to you for the time being. The police have requisitioned it. You should borrow someone else's ladder first. Ning Cheng said. There should be footprints on this ladder, and you will know when you test it. Fang Hailai borrowed a ladder. But why did Fang Hai help Zhao Chaoshan to open the window of his house? Mu Xiaoyu wondered. Don't rush to answer this first. Let's go back to the scene. Ning Cheng took Mu Xiaoyu back to the scene. On the way, Mu Xiaoyu asked curiously, are you suspicious of Fang Hai? You'll find out when you go back and have a look. Ning Cheng smiled and sold out. Hey, if I ask you, you won't say it, but the trace is really familiar. What kind of trace is it? Mu Xiaoyu didn't get Ning Cheng's answer, so she had to figure it out for herself. Arriving at the scene, Ning Cheng pointed to the trace. There is a time when this trace will appear, and that is when you have just moved to a new home. What do you mean, move to a new house? That's right, because sometimes the furniture is too big to come in through the door, so the construction party often adopts a method, which is to use a rope to transport the furniture from the position of the window. During the transportation process, rope friction can cause 230 damage to tiles or walls. Ning Cheng explained by pointing to the trace. But this trace is fan-shaped and not very uniform. If it is a heavy object, a board should be placed for stability. The problem comes again. When hanging something from top to bottom, the trace is often on the window sill. The location of this trace is on the top. Xiaoyu, what do you think? Ning Cheng threw the question to Mu Xiaoyu. Mu Xiaoyu had learned to think divergently after a night of beatings. If something is transported up from below, the trace will be under the sill of the windowsill, and if the trace is above, then it is likely to be transported from above to below. Yes, but what is it that needs to be transported from above? The dormitory buildings in this area are all located at the back of the building. Even if there is something hanging, no one can see it, so this trace should be the trace of the murderer's arrival or the removal of the murder weapon. Combined with the situation at the scene, Mu Xiaoyu made a bold guess. But soon, she became confused again. No, the deceased was obviously strangled to death, and the murder weapon was a rope. Does this also need to be transported away? Obviously, Mu Xiaoyu's thinking at this time fell into a misunderstanding. When most people see this trace, they will think about whether it is to take some kind of heavy object away from the scene and eliminate the evidence, but they have not thought about other factors, which is due to the inertia of thinking. Ning Cheng didn't feel embarrassed, but answered directly. This trace is an irregular fan-shaped swing, which is not caused by dead objects, and this tile is very hard, and it must be very powerful to be able to make such traces on it. What do you mean, it's not a dead thing, can it still be a human being? Mu Xiaoyu joked. Right, Ning Cheng instead gave a definite answer. I understand, the murderer used this rope to enter the deceased's house through the window at around 7:30, then strangled the deceased Zhao Chaoshan, and then used the rope to escape, so we couldn't find the surveillance records. Mu Xiaoyu immediately came to a conclusion. Then how do you explain that the strangle on the deceased's neck is the same as the one who was hanged? If it was strangled, then the deceased would definitely struggle, and the strangle was parallel to the neck. I have just seen that the strangle on the deceased's neck is the same as the jawline is parallel, which is absolutely impossible unless the murderer is half a body taller than the deceased. If that's the case, did the murderer let the dead sit, or did he squat to kill the dead? In this way, the murderer has no use at all, and the deceased was a big man of 185. He was only drunk, not anesthetized, and he would definitely struggle. During the struggle, there would definitely be traces in his fingers, but just checked, there was no skin debris between the deceased's fingers, only a CDBC remnant of a rope. Ning Cheng explained. Mu Xiaoyu fell into deep thought. Yes, if the murderer strangled the deceased would definitely resist, so what is this place for? Ning Cheng asked, have you seen what was left in the fingers of the deceased? Mu Xiaoyu frowned. Of course I've seen it, but if there are only rope residues in the fingers of the deceased, then it should be because there is no place to grab it when floating in the air, only the rope can be grasped. No, you've fallen into a misunderstanding of thinking. Who told you that the remains of the dead person's fingers without anything else are in the air? Ning Cheng raised his eyebrows and smiled. Why not? Mu Xiaoyu asked back. There's another possibility. You look at this toilet yourself. Did you find its layout strange? Layout. Mu Xiaoyu looked around. The bathroom is not big, but the sink and toilet are far from the window. There is nothing else next to the window, just a bare shower, and it seems to be broken. You only thought that the murderer would enter or exit from here, but you never thought that the murderer might never touch the deceased from beginning to end. It's impossible. Without touching the dead, it's a fantasy. Mu Xiaoyu thought for a while to retort. Indeed, without touching the deceased, should the deceased be sent to their own death? Ning Cheng explained. There are no other residues in the fingers of the deceased. Besides, there is nothing to grab. There is also a possibility that what he grabs is very likely to be difficult to leave traces. Hearing this explanation, Mu Xiaoyu was stunned for a moment, and followed her thoughts. It's hard to leave marks. You mean, tiles? Yes, I guess, the deceased is likely to be hanged by the rope pulled in from the outside in this toilet by the window. There is nothing to grab here, only the smooth tiles. The deceased can't take advantage of it. Of course you can't save yourself. This murderer is simply too terrifying. Mu Xiaoyu imagined the scene, and her face turned pale. The deceased Zhao Chaoshan was unconscious after being drunk. When he woke up due to suffocation, he found that he was tightly restrained by a rope, surrounded by smooth tiles. There was nothing to grab, so he could only struggle weakly and die. It is even very likely that he does not know who the murderer is, but such a young and promising young man has lost his dignity in this way. According to what you said, this should be the first murder scene. Mu Xiaoyu said after recovering. That's right, the wire of the shower was removed. I think it's probably because of the fear that the deceased can grab the wire of the shower, leaving evidence and affecting the murderer's plan. Is this really possible? And if it is this method, the deceased must be in great pain before dying. Mu Xiaoyu hesitated. Because it was hanged, and the time is urgent, there is no detailed autopsy report. Now I believe that Tang Xin has completed the basic autopsy. Next, I want to confirm one thing with her. Ning Cheng took out his mobile phone and dialed Tang Xin's number. Tang Xin, what are the results of your autopsy? After Tang Xin answered the phone, her voice was very anxious. Ning Cheng, I was about to tell you this. During the on-site inspection before, because the family members of the deceased were there, I didn't check the body surface of the body. When I did an autopsy just now, I found that both elbows of the deceased were bruised to a certain extent. I suspect that the deceased may have been with someone before he died. There was a fight. How to say? I am also very puzzled about this, because the bruised skin of the corpse is intact, the swelling is severe, and there is secondary trauma. The time should have been caused within a period of time before death, and the time difference will not exceed 2 hours. What I don't understand is that, why is there no obvious damage to other parts of the deceased, only some small abrasions? Tang Xin found out that it was hard to believe that the corpse would not lie, but who would only attack the elbows. It's very simple, because the bruises on the deceased's elbows were all caused by him. Ning Cheng said loudly. Is it possible? The deceased was in a mess. If it was a struggle when fighting someone, it would make sense. But there was only the deceased in the dormitory from beginning to end. How could such a scar appear? Tang Xin is very curious. I just found traces of rope rubbing in the toilet in the deceased's dormitory, and I sampled it. I just smelled an unpleasant smell. If I guessed correctly, it is the smell of tar. Ning Cheng continued to explain. I have checked the information. In the climbing rope, there is a material called Italian hemp. This fiber is very tough, but it needs to be soaked in tar to ensure elasticity when handling. I think if it is correct, this substance should be tar. Tang Xin knew it at one point and made a bold guess. You mean, someone hanged the dead man with a rope in the toilet, and the dead man hit the wall with his elbows while struggling, resulting in bruises on his elbows. That's right, Tang Xin, you should have taken back the rope used to hang the deceased. Now you need to confirm two things, that is, whether the rope is of this material or not, and secondly, whether tar was found on the neck of the deceased. Mark of clear. After waiting for a while, Tang Xin called again. Two findings. First, the rope on which the deceased was hanged did not contain tar, and second, the streak on the deceased's neck did contain tar. Ning Cheng, you were right. Ning Cheng went to the place where the deceased was hanged to have a look and analyze. So, what can be determined now is that the deceased should have been strangled to death by a climbing rope made of Italian hemp, and then hung up again, forging signs of suicide. Mu Xiaoyu is now completely convinced of Ning Cheng. It's unbelievable, but if so, how did the dead man get tied? If the murderer didn't touch the dead man, how did he get the rope tied? From when Kai Xiaoli left to when she came back, the deceased should have been in an insane state during this period of time. There was no monitoring in the house, so he could only infer from other places. I checked the relationship network of Zhao Chaoshan before. He is the manager of the marketing department. The usual network is very complicated. There are hundreds of friends on WeChat, and there are many friends who are familiar with each other, but they are not particularly different. This, although I keep in touch with many people, the connection is not deep, and apart from Kai Xiaoli, Fang Hai, and Li Yang, I don't have any particularly good friends. I'm not surprised by this result. The death of Zhao Chaoshan has nothing to do with these three people. Do you remember where Li Yang lived? He lives on the 8th floor. You mean, he strangled the dead with a climbing rope from the 8th floor? Thinking of this possibility, Mu Xiaoyu couldn't help but want to go upstairs to verify. It's very possible, but it's also possible that it's from the 9th floor or even higher, and that possibility cannot be ruled out. Ning Cheng didn't speak his mind directly, but listed possible situations first. Both of these possibilities are based on the inferences I just made. What we have to do now is to find out the murderer's motive for killing, and then apply for a search warrant. Yes, as long as there is a motive for the murder, we can find out the key to this case. Mu Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. After Tang Xin heard it, she immediately explained the inference to Zhou Zi. Zhou Zi was overtime waiting for news from Ning Cheng at this time. Hearing that the case had made a breakthrough, he immediately asked Ning Cheng to return to the police station and hand over the collected evidence to the inspection department. After returning to the police station, Ning Cheng found Zhou Zi. Team Zhou, it's already 3 o'clock in the evening, and the Shanghai Pie Company opens at 8 in the morning. As long as the motive for the murder can be found, then this case will be much simpler. Ning Cheng, you did a very good job. This time, it only took you an hour and a half to find the breakthrough in the case. It seems that the people of our second team need to rectify it. 0. On the one hand, Zhou Zi was glad that he had Ning Cheng as a capable player, on the other hand, he hated the former members of the current second team. Actually, it is not difficult to find suspicious points in this case itself, but the difficulty is that this case is too inductive and confusing. First, the person who reported the case claimed that it was a suicide case, which caused the police to be preconceived. Secondly, several people have alibi, which makes the case complicated, and the police search is superficial. Ning Cheng did not take the credit, but analyzed the difficulties of the case, which made Zhou Zi even more gratified. Indeed, these little, I think they have been really stable for too long, and they have become unwilling to think. Including me, if it weren't for your persuasion today, according to my character, I would probably miss this clue and let the deceased in justice. Team Zhou, don't blame yourself, you keep a wait-and-see attitude, in fact, I can understand. How could Ning Cheng blame Zhou Zi? Zhou Zi has been the captain of the second team for so many years. He has a calm personality and is down-to-earth in solving cases, but he is almost aggressive, but he is able to support him in such a disadvantaged situation today. In the end, he was not wrong. As a captain, the first thing he wanted was to serve the public, but he forgot to be a policeman. His first priority was to give justice to the deceased no matter how hard or tired he was. Josie stretched out his fist, and Ning Cheng also smiled and bumped into it. Sometimes, no explanation is needed between men. Ding. Time was in a hurry. Ning Cheng and Mu Xiaoshui fell directly on the chairs and slept for a few hours. At 7:30, they got up on time and went to Shanghai Pie Company. Because it was a visit, several people were dressed in casual clothes to avoid putting pressure on the masses. When he arrived at the Shanghai Pie Group, Ning Cheng showed his credentials to the front desk, and went straight to the marketing department with a few police officers. All the employees of the Shanghai Pie Group lived in the dormitory. Today, as long as the social relationship of the deceased Zhao Chaoshan is investigated, we can find out, criminal suspect. Thanks to the system, Ning Cheng already knew that the suspects were Kai Xiaoli, Fang Hai, and Li Yang. The next step was to find out the motives of the murders, and then apply for a search warrant. At this time, the marketing department was already in chaos. At the moment of running for the general manager, Zhao Chaoshan, the marketing department manager, hanged himself in the dormitory and raised the cordon. The marketing department has no leader, and it is a sensitive topic when they encounter 230. Before a few people ask, they have already heard the employees start talking. Have you heard that Zhao Chaoshan died in our staff dormitory last night? A man with black-rimmed glasses, black lips and a few pimples on his chin gossips. This kind of death was terrifying in the first place, let alone in the dormitory building. A girl's voice trembled immediately. How did the manager die and what happened? Men eat this set, and when someone asks, they quickly speak. It's a long story. Yesterday, I was staying in my room and suddenly I heard a voice from below. I happened to be hungry and wanted to go down for a late-night snack, but... You keep talking. The female colleague was very curious. As a result, I saw that Zhao Chaoshan's room was cordoned off. I was curious, so I immediately went around and quietly ran over to take a look. You don't know. At that time, I took a look inside and saw Zhao Chaoshan hanging on the ceiling. The two-eyed boss is staring at me. The whole office was fascinated by this topic, and the man enjoyed it so much that he couldn't help shaking his head. One of the male colleagues sneered. Blow it. How could anyone still look at you when everyone is dead? Other colleagues also talked about it. So, Zhao Chao was hanged first. What a pity. I heard that his performance this year alone is hundreds of thousands. After listening for a long time, a middle-aged woman was eating steamed buns and muttering. Hey, according to me, he is really pitiful. He was unhappy when he was alive, and he chose such a way to die. I really don't understand what he thought. A female student colleague couldn't listen anymore and interrupted. Okay, everyone is dead, you are still here gossiping about others, and you are not afraid that he will come to you. Hey, when did I speak ill of him? Didn't I pity him? Come on, Sister Li, you are still pitiful, so pitiful that you invite them to your house for dinner. I don't think they pay any attention to you at all. Who doesn't know that you are taking your daughter and want to find a man for a second marriage? The male colleague who was chatting before said it without any hesitation. As soon as these words were said, the middle-aged woman, Sister Li, immediately became anxious. You son of a foo, his own girlfriend is disrespectful, didn't I want to remind him? Hearing Sister Li's words, Ning Cheng stopped the colleagues in the second group and made a gesture for them to continue listening at the door. The male colleague looked at Sister Li with disgust in his eyes, as if he was a little afraid of touching her. You're just jealous. Manager Zhao and his girlfriend are a natural pair. How can you be a monster to oppose it? You bullshit. I always do things with conscience. I have said that Kai Xiaoli is not a good bird. I saw her and Fang Hai eating at a restaurant outside the other day. Tisk tisk, they were very close to each other. Yes, if I hadn't seen me, I see, maybe we'd kiss each other. With the deputy manager. Impossible, Sister Li, it's not like you don't know. Fang Hai has a good relationship with our manager, and the manager is usually busy, so when Sister Kai came to see someone and couldn't find it, we had to have a meal together. Food. Male colleagues don't care. Sister Li didn't even eat steamed buns, so she had to argue with her male colleagues about right or wrong. Tisk, why don't you believe me? I really saw it. Manager Zhao is usually busy with work, so he doesn't pay attention to this, but he can't fool me. Usually men and women eat so close together, and they eat each other's dishes. Yo, my ex-husband and I are not that tired and crooked, and as soon as I go over, the two of us will be separated, and I won't believe it if there is no ghost. Really, I also think it's a little bit. You see, every time Sister Kai comes, the basic manager is not there. I have been wanting to complain for a long time. Is she looking for the manager or the deputy manager? Several people chatted happily, and the students couldn't help reminding, you guys are chatting so happily, I'm really not afraid that the deputy manager will hear. Sister Lee is also an old fritter in the workplace. She ate her own steamed buns on the spot, but her male colleague didn't care. Don't worry, just play today. I saw Fang Hai, Kai Xiaoli and Li Yong being taken away by the police last night. I don't think they will be back in a while. They were taken away by the police. What do you mean? What are they? Criminal suspects. Sister Lee's gossip came up again. Tisk, who said it wasn't? According to me, I think Fang Hai has a problem. It's okay to be a girl. Just his broken performance last month, whether he meets the standard is a problem. Zhao Chaoshan's performance last year. After doing 20 million, it stands to reason that if two people choose the general manager, that would be a blind man. He can't see, so he knows which one to choose. Cheng Fanghai, if you want to say that it's all right, I'll be the first to not believe it. The male colleague may have some festivals with Fanghai, and he is very targeted when speaking. I heard from them that it is possible to report. Fanghai is not going to report Zhao Chaoshan, otherwise I can't think of anything that can make the head office change its decision. 1.2. After listening at the door for a while, Ning Cheng probably had a bottom line. The motive for the murder is actually quite simple. Human nature is a very complicated thing. Some people will not want to stab them back even if they are stabbed once, and some people will be motivated to kill just because others take what they think belongs to them. Kai Xiaoli didn't know what was going on, but it was very likely that she existed as an accomplice. Fang Hai's popularity in the company seems to be very bad. No one speaks up when he says that. It can be seen that he is not very good at being a person. Therefore, Ning Cheng reasonably guesses that this person may be very revengeful and hypocritical, good-natured person. It is difficult to verify what Sister Lee said, but Ning Cheng only needs to know that Fang Hai and Kai Xiaoli used to eat together, and they often played together, then it is enough to ask the two people's motives for murder. Time was in a hurry. Ning Cheng and Mu Xiaoshui fell directly on the chairs and slept for a few hours. At 7:30, they got up on time and went to Shanghai Pie Company. Because it was a visit, several people were dressed in casual clothes to avoid putting pressure on the masses. When he arrived at the Shanghai Pie Group, Ning Cheng showed his credentials to the front desk, and went straight to the marketing department with a few police officers. All the employees of the Shanghai Pie Group lived in the dormitory. Today, as long as the social relationship of the deceased Zhao Chaoshan is investigated, we can find out, criminal suspect. Thanks to the system, Ning Cheng already knew that the suspects were Kai Xiaoli, Fang Hai, and Li Yong. The next step was to find out the motives of the murders, and then apply for a search warrant. At this time, the marketing department was already in chaos. At the moment of running for the general manager, Zhao Chaoshan, the marketing department manager, hanged himself in the dormitory and raised the cordon. The marketing department has no leader, and it is a sensitive topic when they encounter 230. Before a few people ask, they have already heard the employees start talking. Have you heard that Zhao Chaoshan died in our staff dormitory last night? A man with black-rimmed glasses, black lips and a few pimples on his chin gossips. This kind of death was terrifying in the first place, let alone in the dormitory building. A girl's voice trembled immediately. How did the manager die and what happened? Men eat this set, and when someone asks, they quickly speak. It's a long story. Yesterday, I was staying in my room and suddenly I heard a voice from below. I happened to be hungry and wanted to go down for a late-night snack, but... You keep talking. The female colleague was very curious. As a result, I saw that Zhao Chaoshan's room was cordoned off. I was curious, so I immediately went around and quietly ran over to take a look. You don't know. At that time, I took a look inside and saw Zhao Chaoshan hanging on the ceiling. The two-eyed boss is staring at me. The whole office was fascinated by this topic, and the man enjoyed it so much that he couldn't help shaking his head. One of the male colleagues sneered. Blow it, how could anyone still look at you when everyone is dead? Other colleagues also talked about it. So, Zhao Chao was hanged first. What a pity, I heard that his performance this year alone is hundreds of thousands. After listening for a long time, a middle-aged woman was eating steamed buns and muttering. Hey, according to me, he is really pitiful. He was unhappy when he was alive, and he chose such a way to die. I really don't understand what he thought. A female student colleague couldn't listen anymore and interrupted. Okay, everyone is dead, you are still here gossiping about others, and you are not afraid that he will come to you. Hey, when did I speak ill of him? Didn't I pity him? Come on, Sister Lee, you are still pitiful, so pitiful that you invite them to your house for dinner. I don't think they pay any attention to you at all. Who doesn't know that you are taking your daughter and want to find a man for a second marriage? The male colleague who was chatting before said it without any hesitation. As soon as these words were said, the middle-aged woman, Sister Lee, immediately became anxious. You son of a fool, his own girlfriend is disrespectful, didn't I want to remind him? Hearing Sister Lee's words, Ning Cheng stopped the colleagues in the second group and made a gesture for them to continue listening at the door. The male colleague looked at Sister Lee with disgust in his eyes, as if he was a little afraid of touching her. You're just jealous. Manager Zhao and his girlfriend are a natural pair. How can you be a monster to oppose it? You bullshit, I always do things with conscience. I have said that Kai Xiaoli is not a good bird. I saw her and Fang Hai eating at a restaurant outside the other day, tisk tisk, they were very close to each other. Yes, if I hadn't seen me, I see, maybe we'd kiss each other. With the deputy manager. Impossible, Sister Lee, it's not like you don't know. Fang Hai has a good relationship with our manager, and the manager is usually busy, so when Sister Kai came to see someone and couldn't find it, we had to have a meal together. Food. Male colleagues don't care. Sister Lee didn't even eat steamed buns, so she had to argue with her male colleagues about right or wrong. Tisk, why don't you believe me? I really saw it. Manager Zhao is usually busy with work, so he doesn't pay attention to this, but he can't fool me. Usually men and women eat so close together, and they eat each other's dishes. Yo, my ex-husband and I are not that tired and crooked, and as soon as I go over, the two of us will be separated, and I won't believe it if there is no ghost. Really, I also think it's a little bit. You see, every time Sister Kai comes, the basic manager is not there. I have been wanting to complain for a long time. Is she looking for the manager or the deputy manager? Several people chatted happily, and the students couldn't help reminding, you guys are chatting so happily, I'm really not afraid that the deputy manager will hear. Sister Lee is also an old fritter in the workplace. She ate her own steamed buns on the spot, but her male colleague didn't care. Don't worry, just play today. I saw Fang Hai, Kai Xiaoli and Li Yong being taken away by the police last night. I don't think they will be back in a while. They were taken away by the police. What do you mean? What are they? Criminal suspects. Sister Lee's gossip came up again. Tisk, who said it wasn't? According to me, I think Fang Hai has a problem. It's okay to be a girl. Just his broken performance last month, whether he meets the standard is a problem. Zhao Chaoshan's performance last year. After doing 20 million, it stands to reason that if two people choose the general manager, that would be a blind man, he can't see, so he knows which one to choose. Cheng Fang Hai, if you want to say that it's all right, I'll be the first to not believe it. The male colleague may have some festivals with Fang Hai, and he is very targeted when speaking. I heard from them that it is possible to report. Fang Hai is not going to report Zhao Chaoshan, otherwise I can't think of anything that can make the head office change its decision. 1.2. After listening at the door for a while, Ning Cheng probably had a bottom line. The motive for the murder is actually quite simple. Human nature is a very complicated thing. Some people will not want to stab them back even if they are stabbed once, and some people will be motivated to kill just because others take what they think belongs to them. Kai Xiaoli didn't know what was going on, but it was very likely that she existed as an accomplice. Fang Hai's popularity in the company seems to be very bad. No one speaks up when he says that. It can be seen that he is not very good at being a person. Therefore, Ning Cheng reasonably guesses that this person may be very revengeful and hypocritical, good-natured person. It is difficult to verify what Sister Li said, but Ning Cheng only needs to know that Fang Hai and Kai Xiaoli used to eat together, and they often played together, then it is enough to ask the two people's motives for murder. Ning Cheng directly waved his hand and let a few people in to start recording, while he walked towards the student's head. When he was listening just now, he found out that although the student head is a girl, he does not gossip, and he treats problems very objectively and does not agree with others. Regarding Li Yang, Ning Cheng thought, it must be good to ask the student head, choose. Officer, what's the matter with you? The students seemed to be afraid of the police, so Ning Cheng had to relax a little and asked, in your impression, what do you think of Kai Xiaoli, Fang Hai, and Li Yang? Unexpectedly, Ning Cheng would ask such a question, and the student was stunned for a moment. Shouldn't the police be asking about objective facts? Maybe you can occasionally add some subjective ideas to make it more human, and I believe you will evaluate them objectively, right? Quote. The student glanced at Ning Cheng and found that he was serious and a little puzzled. You can just say it with confidence. I won't record this sentence in the record. You can just treat me as a chat with you. 23 inches. Ning Cheng tried not to put pressure on the students' heads, and finally, the students spoke up. Kai Xiaoli, I rarely have contact with her. She is from the personnel department of our company. She often comes to see Zhao Chaoshan, but I rarely interact with her, but she is very delicate and often emotional, and her love and hate are very extreme. If you like something, you will use it all the time, but if you hate something, you will hate it to death. Fang Hai is a very material person, he loves money very much. I remember that when he first came to the company, his performance was not good, and he often took out loans to support him. However, although he loves money, he does not allow us to say that he has no money. Probably this is because the more something is missing, the more afraid people will talk about it. Li Yang treats people well and has a high emotional intelligence. He usually plays well with Zhao Chaoshan. I'm not very familiar with him. When the student had talked about the first two people, they were able to talk freely and without mercy. When it came to Li Yang, he was stunned for a while, and then changed the subject. Looking at the student's eyes, Ning Cheng was sure that the students must know something about Li Yang. Then have you noticed anything wrong with Li Yang? Ning Cheng noticed that the student's head was deliberately avoiding Li Yang's question, so he directly poked at the pain point. I didn't say there was anything wrong with Li Yang. The student frowned and said inversely. Ning Cheng smiled, I didn't say Li Yang was bad, ma'am, you must know something about Li Yang, right? You, nothing. The student's head showed a tangled expression, and Ning Cheng smiled knowingly. I don't know why you avoid this topic, but I want to tell you that I am a policeman, and now I am asking you about the suspect, to find out the murderer of Zhao Chaoshan, not gossip, and I assure you that our police department will not expose the suspect's private information, and we will also hide your name, now, are you relieved? The student head seemed to want to say something, but he was still stunned by Ning Cheng's determined eyes, and told Ning Cheng in a low voice. Li Yang usually likes to wear his own makeup and women's clothes. This clue was like thunder, and it opened Ning Cheng's mind. Li Yang likes women's clothing and makeup. It may be a hobby, but there is a bigger possibility. Ning Cheng looked at the student's head and asked, do you think Li Yang is gay? The student was frightened by Ning Cheng's words. He originally wanted to get away with it, but then he thought that since he had already told half of it, he didn't need to tell the truth. Is he gay or not? I don't know, but when I eat with him or go out to play, he often watches some live broadcasts, some male anchor. Officer, I want to go to the bathroom. Li Yang usually goes to Zhaobo who just arrived in the ministry, maybe you can ask him. The student head seemed to be unable to bear this topic, so he got up and left. Ning Cheng knew that people couldn't be in a hurry, and he had already asked what he should ask, so he went directly to ask where Zhaobo was. When he arrived at Zhaobo's station, Ning Cheng shouted directly. Zhaobo turned his head and looked like a young college student. He was very handsome. He was about 1.8 meters tall, with dark skin. He seemed to be exercising often. Excuse me. Zhaobo's workstation was farther inside, and he didn't hear any noise from outside just now. I'm a policeman from Zhongcheng Police Station. Did you know that there was a case in your dormitory yesterday? This, I know a little. Zalbo was not good at communicating with people, his dark face was a little red. I didn't come to interrogate you today, don't worry, someone said that Li Yong often came to you, so I wanted to ask you, what do you think of Li Yong? Ning Cheng observed Zalbo's expression, but found that when he mentioned Li Yong, Zalbo's body involuntarily began to resist, and his brows were furrowed, looking very unhappy. What's the matter? Do you have a bad relationship with Li Yong? No, it's not good or bad, I prefer a person. Seeing Zalbo's embarrassed expression, Ning Cheng understood and made a bold guess. As far as I know about Li Yong, his EQ is very high. Someone just said that Li Yong often comes to you, and you don't really want to see him, so I boldly guess that maybe he is looking for you unilaterally, right? Zalbo turned pale and explained, how is it possible, I'm just an intern. It's because you're an intern, so even if you don't want to be with Li Yong, you have to endure it, right? Zalbo nodded helplessly. How long has this been happening, is it serious? Ning Cheng asked. What's the situation? Harassment. Hearing the word Ning Cheng said, Zalbo immediately stood up. No, but it was precisely because of his violent reaction that Ning Cheng had a bottom line in his heart. He often comes to you in the name of an intern, and he's likely to court you. Of course I'm not talking about courtship in the ordinary sense. You're annoying, but you can't say no, right? This. Zalbo seemed to feel a little ashamed and did not dare to say it. Ning Cheng sneered, Li Yong's crime value is as high as 189, and he is a highly dangerous person. If he is really placed by this Zalbo's side, there may be an accident. You just have to answer, is he gay? Zalbo stared at Ning Cheng for a long time before speaking. Yes.